Okay.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking Dogs with Ante. I'm your host, Ante Lucin, and as you know, we said January will be the month of master breeders. We had some amazing interviews in the last few weeks, but I think that this one, as the things are looking at the moment, is going to break all the records. I just spoke with my guests before we started to go online, and he said, well, I hope we are going to have some viewers. It would be horrible if it was only you and me, even if for me would be nice to spend chatting only with him. But I must say that in the first 5 minutes, even without putting my guest on the screen, we have already over 60 comments, and we have already now over 260 people watching live, which is amazing. I managed to read some of the comments, and somebody wrote, let me try to find it. Vera Andra wrote, "This interview will break all the records," and as it is looking now, I think that's going to be really the case. Anyhow, before we start, as you know, always I ask you for a personal favor to make a photo of your screen and put it on your Instagram story and tag me so we can get even more people watching during the interview. That's my something I always like to see after we finish. But for the moment, let me bring you on the screen the person that you are waiting, of course, to hear and to see. It's my guest tonight, Michael Gadsby from the UK of the Afterglow Kennels. Good evening, Michael, and welcome to Talking Dogs with Ante. And thank you for accepting the invitation. How do you feel?
I feel very good and very flattered to be asked to be on your show.
Thank you, Michael. As I told you, and as some of the people have already written, now I'm absolutely sure that this interview is going to break all the records that we had till now, because we are with over 300 people watching it live, which is just amazing. And we had in the first 7 minutes with you saying just I'm feeling good, 88 comments. So obviously it will be difficult to follow all of it, and there is not too much sense for me. Let me just see to follow all the comments. If I miss some important questions or some things, please let me know. Put it again. For the moment, it's like it's crazy. We have people, but absolutely from all around the world, watching, just to catch some of them. Yanis is watching from Athens, Magnus from Stockholm, Aurora from Italy, Susanne from Spain. Let me see, from everywhere, like Romania, Denmark, UK, Canada, people really from all around the world are watching. My God, 330 persons, Michael. So be very careful what you are saying tonight, because it's a lot of people watching, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of questions also from the viewers. But I must say, I have spent last night at least 3 or 4 hours reading all the interviews that have ever been published about you and your kennel, watching some videos and so on. So I think I have managed to touch the most important things of your doggy life. For the start, as usual, Michael, my first question will be, what was your last show? When do you hope to have your next show? And do you miss traveling, judging, showing dogs? How are you coping with this crazy pandemic?
Well, Auntie, the last show was, of course, Crofts, and we had a nice time, and we caught up with all our friends from here and overseas. We've had nothing for like, what is this now, January? So we've had nothing for 10 months in the UK. I miss mostly seeing my friends. I think that whole social aspect of the dog showing is probably the most important thing. I mean, obviously, I'm a real connoisseur of good dogs, some of my own and many of that I've admired of other people's. But I think the social aspect of going to the dog shows and hanging out with our friends is something that all of us are missing all over the world. So,
And what are your hopes when you will start again?
but I think we're possibly going to be one of the worst countries in the world, because I think I can see some interest in several places in Europe. Of course, America continues. I think that we hoped that once the vaccine was rolled out, and I think we're up to 6.5 million people have been administered so far. We'd hoped that things would quickly, once we'd looked after the old and the vulnerable, that we thought that things might get back to normality very quickly. But it appears from our government that it might take a little longer than we anticipated. So we're hoping for dog shows maybe in May, but I'm not 100% certain whether that will be the case.
Yeah, we are all hoping that it's going to start soon, but it's the same here. I know you are not in the European Union anymore, but here in the European Union, the situation is not any better, and we were all hoping that when these vaccines were out, we will, do it quickly and start the new lives, normal lives. But it's not going at the moment in a good direction. But anyhow, let's stay positive. Okay, I must say immediately to all the people who are writing, I'm obviously trying to catch on all of your comments, and I'm sure that Michael will be happy to watch this once when it's finished and see all. Michael, there are in the first 10 minutes 130 comments of people from all around the world saying hello to you. Obviously, some people who know you, who are your friends, but also obviously some people who just know your dogs. So I'm sure that you will be interested to see them all. It's impossible for me to read all these comments and follow on them. And we have 380 people watching live, so I think it's the best that we start with the questions. I don't know actually what I want to ask you on the first advertisings that I have put about our interview. Andrew Brace was all the time writing, "This will be a long one," and at that time I didn't understand why. But when I started to go into your history of dogs, now I can completely understand. I was really trying to catch some of the most important questions, but still there is a lot. I wanted that for the start, Mike, we go back to your past, to your childhood. I found in one of the interviews that you gave that your parents were not doggy people, even if they have had Westies as pets, and that actually your first connection with the world of purebred dogs was when you were 13 years old and when you became a kennel helper. Can you tell us a little bit about your beginnings?
I lived. I mean, it's interesting because we've lost so many breeders, but at the time I lived in a little village in Leicestershire in England, and just outside the village on a main road with nice houses with plenty of land, there were 3 exceptional breeders. One to mention, one was Belligar Spaniels, very famous in cockers, and Ketor Shih Tzus, which were legendary, along with a lot of green moss influence there. And then, of course, the place that I got the job, my little weekend job with, was Pyreneans, and she herself was a championship show judge. She judged at Crufts, she made up champions, and she took me to the dog shows, and I was obsessed from the moment I went to the first one.
So that was the start. Do you remember yourself first time showing a dog?
Yeah, I do. I showed under Bill Siggers at Crofts, and I was in a graduate class, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack before. I guess I was 14 or 15. I thought I was going to have a heart attack before I went into the ring. And Bill Siggers, if anybody looked back on this manner of judging, he looked in the mouth and stroked the top of the head, and then it was over. And I think I got a 4th, so it wasn't too bad. It was quite respectable, I think, for a debut.
For the start. Now you would not be happy with that, I'm sure about that. Anyhow, listen, Mike, I tried to, in a way, I want to talk obviously a little bit more with you about your main breeds, but it is absolutely amazing and we spoke about this. We checked our lists before we started. If I remember well, that you have done that you have made up English champions in 21 different breeds, which I think is just amazing. So we are going to talk more, obviously, about American Cockers. We are going to talk more about standard poodles. We are going to talk a little bit more also about Afghan hounds, and I will explain why so. But for the moment, I will try to pass together with you quickly some of the breeds where you made champions, and you can say quickly just what was your relation with the breed, how did you get into them, why did you stop breeding, and so on. Before we start with that, tell me just, I know that there are two explanations of your kennel name, one that it is real one and one that it sounds better to you today, but tell us why it was Afterglow.
The truth, I would like people to think that perhaps Afterglow was the feelings after some intimacy. However, in which case it would be clever. But in reality, when I was a youth, I was an ardent Genesis fan when Peter Gabriel was the most important figure in that band. And one of my favourite tracks was Afterglow, and I thought it made a perfect kennel name. So it's a little bit boring, actually.
Well, but it sounds very well. I mean, even if you feel that it came from something boring, I think that it sounds very good as a kennel name. Yeah. So you should not be sorry about that. Before I start with my questions and with the breeds, I want to ask just all the viewers that are watching it now. And we have already officially break all the records with over 400 people watching it live and 162 comments for the moment. I have seen that there have been already a lot of people putting questions on. But I think if I start now reading your questions, we are going to get completely lost. Can I ask you now for the first time, because as I said, we have never had so many questions and so many people watching. Can I ask you to keep your questions for the end of the interview? I will read mine because obviously some of the questions that I have will be the same to the ones that you want to ask. Let's finish my questions, and then Mike and I will give you like 10 minutes, 15 minutes just for your questions. So keep them for the end, because like this I will not be able to follow them. Okay, Michael, let's check on your memory. Shih Tzus.
A dog from Norway called Henrik, and a dear friend, Elaine MacDonald, who found this dog, and we loved him, and I became a joint owner, and we handled him to his title very quickly. He was, I've forgotten, I'm appalled by the fact that I just can't remember his show name, but he was from two very clever boys who lived in Norway. And they, at the time, for a while, they were breeding world-class Shih Tzus. I think they finished now, but at the time they were exceptional.
Okay, Tibetan Terriers.
Well, obviously, I have had a close friendship with Ken Sinclair since I was a kid, and it's no surprise that my involvement with Ken as a friend would rise to me having one or two Tibetan Terriers. The first one I took was a clip-down bitch that I thought was fantastic, and Ken was like, "Why do you want this one?" I said, "I'm going to grow the hair and show her," and she became Iraqi Gorgeous Gussie, and I showed the litter sister of a legendary bitch called Iraqi Frisia Assets. The sister was called Iraqi Ashtoreth for a lady called Sue Dyke. She's now a judge. She lives in Scotland. And even despite the tough competition from her sister, we managed to beat her on the odd occasion, and she became a champion. So, and there was a few more champions after that. But basically, and an import from Finland called Serbuchiero Izar of Iraqi, a name that I couldn't pronounce for the longest time, but eventually I got it.
Okay, perfect. The pugs.
Pugs. Well, controversially, I had but I've had an American pug that won a group under Dondini, and a fantastic moving dog. Got made up relatively quickly. We had another pug that I didn't make up, but he won a couple of CCs. And then I had a black bitch called Delwyn, a famous Pekingese breeder, Delwyn. She bred a litter of pugs. I went down. I called in to see her one day, and there was a pug bitch that I couldn't take my eyes off, and I left with her, and she became one of the youngest black champions ever in the breed. She was an all breed specialist. They loved her. Incidentally, just when I judge pugs, I do judge pugs. I think that people are astounded because I'm highly critical of long course American, we'll call them typical American pug coats. And people think because the champion that I made up had this coat, that I will be forgiven of it. But of course, you're probably the same, Auntie. If you've had a fault, it's probably something that is burnt into your mind. So
yeah,
it becomes an issue. So when they come to me afterwards and say, "Why didn't you put my dog up?" I say, "Oh, dreadful coat," and they think the hypocrisy is astounding.
yeah. Well, yeah. But I think it is in many breeds. When we have something in our lines which we really hate, or something on our dogs that we really hate, then people say, okay, he had this, so there is no problem. I can pass with this. But actually, as you say, it's something that we really penalize a lot. I can understand that. What about Cillian Terriers?
Cillian, just one from the famous Top Stage Kennel. Biddy Postgate and her husband Harry were, her partner Harry were. Biddy was legendary all over the world with the Top Stage Cillians. She had so many fantastic champions. Of course, I knew them because they had Harry, her partner, had a big involvement in American Cocker Spaniels, and so something nice comes along and happy days. But it was they're a fun breed, a nice breed. It's a shame that they're not so popular, but a very, very nice breed. They're difficult to present. They have a very difficult coat, but they're a very lovely breed.
Yeah. Kerry Blues.
Well, again, listen, one of the things about me and the kennel is that all of this success has been always a team effort and always not an individual person. Well, again, I can't say Kerry Blues without mentioning Phil Davis of the very famous Perry's Blue Kennel. Phil and I became friends many years ago, and I had a couple that got made up, and the governor was one that was he must have been mad, like allowing me to go mad with my scissors on his beautiful Kerry Blues. But I enjoyed it, and it was very much fun.
Okay, Akitas.
You've got to get to the point where I've actually had a major role in this, Auntie, because again, a close friendship with Shirley Jones and up to me. Of course, Shirley was very famous. She bred several champions, but a big claim to fame was Love Action, who won the group of Crufts twice, which is a huge deal. And we were in for Best in Show when Anne Rogers-Clark judged all the groups and Best in Show at LKA, the very, very large show, about, I don't know, at the time, probably 12,000, 13,000 dogs. I won the group with my beloved Afghan Riot, and she won the group with Love Action, and she beat me. So, but we were great friends, and we had a dog appropriately named Kiss This, and he was a reserve Best in Show winner, so he did okay.
Okay, and then Weimaraners.
Right. So Patsy Hollins of the famous Gunnolts has parties after every Leeds Championship show, and of course it's the summer and it's a lovely evening, and we're outside, and that's next to a beautiful dry stone paddock that the dogs are loose in, and we saw a beautiful. I was with Jason, and Jason and I saw a beautiful young 5-month-old Weimaraner puppy, and asked Patsy if we could have her, and Patsy must have been drunk because she said yes. So yeah, but that was the Weimaraner champion.
Okay. Then we have miniature wire-haired dachshunds.
Well, actually, that was kind of by accident because the thing with me is that I've got a passion for lots and lots of breeds. I always have since I was a kid. So if somebody said to me, "Oh, can you help me get this breed or that breed or whatever," then usually I know exactly where I want to go. So a girl called Mandy Dance, and a very, very good breeder of mini wires. At the beginning, she was based firmly on old Drake Sleep lines, and a friend of mine, and there's a link to Spinoni's there. She actually wanted a mini wire-haired dachshund, and so I said, "I'll find you one." Mandy had a bitch that she said, of course, we weigh them here. It's very crucial that they stay under the weight. And excuse me, Mandy had a bitch that she liked very much, but she said I phoned her up and she said, "Yeah, I've got one. It's a nice one, but she's going to go over the weight." So I said, "Well, in that case, she'll be perfect for my friend." Anyway, I brought her home, and before I could deliver her to my friend, we'd kind of fallen for her, and she stayed under the weight, and she was top dachshund for the top dachshund bitch for the year that we showed her. So that was good. It was
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, and then pointers.
Right. Well, pointers. A fabulous breeder of pointers, very controversial. She was not particularly well liked by a lot of the established pointer people. She was very blunt, very forthright, my sort of girl, really. McDougall. I'm trying to think of a. Anyway, Adstock. Donna McDougall, Adstock. She bred a dog that's called Adstock Jacobite, who was a great dog, And I was at the time showing an American Cocker that was destined to be top dog all breeds. And every time I went into the group and Jacobite was in the group, I could not believe my luck that I beat him. I thought he was that good a dog. Anyway, go forward. And Donna had a bit of a meltdown at one of the shows. I heard through a friend that she was packing in showing. I judged the young dog like a 10-month-old dog that I thought was incredible. And so I phoned her up, and instead of being a caring, dear person and saying, "No, you must reconsider," I was on the phone saying, if you're packing in, Donna, can I have Higgins? She agreed to let me have Higgins, and he took me a while to make him up because I wasn't a welcome sight in the pointer ring, shall we say. But he was an incredible dog. And he went best in show at the Pointer Club in a huge entry, 250 pointers, something like that. He was a really wonderful dog, beautiful construction, lovely headed dog, great mover. Perhaps could have done with a little bit more neck, maybe a shade darker eye, but a great dog. Anyway, some years went by, and I was in the States and saw pointers that had won at the Pointer National. I was kind of shocked by how little I thought of them. Having said that, pointers have gone on and become a really competitive and wonderful breed there, but I'm going back quite some years. Anyway, when I came back, it got me thinking about pointers again. I phoned up Carrie and Sigurd Wilberg and said, "I've got to use that dog that I made up, Higgins, before it's too late, before he's too old. Will you let me borrow a bitch? Will I lease a bitch from you?" Anyway, I borrowed a bitch and we bred to Higgins, and it produced Afterglow Barefaced Lie, a group winner under at Leeds, a great big championship show, huge 2,000 gun dogs. Won the group under Espeneng, won a lot of tickets, and a great dog. I mean, and interestingly, I let a great handler, a great youngster, have him. Because, like pointers, they can be a bit sensitive, and I hadn't really got the time. But David Oldcorn took him and turned him around, and the dog was he's an old man now, he's still alive, but I was very proud of him, very proud.
Excellent. What about Chihuahuas?
Okay, so you bring up a breed that I failed miserably in. So
is it possible?
Well, yeah, it's possible, and I really blame some of the toy breeders are very difficult to deal with, and Chihuahuas probably the worst. Smooth coat Chihuahuas at the time had a dominant kennel that was winning everything, rightly so, beautiful dogs. I had some really good bitches. I'd used Knock 'em Dead Norman, a great dog, and I'd gone back to an old dog that was behind the Dechidas line, a dog called Super Blue, expensive Super Blue. Anyway, I had a beautiful bitch, and I was completely certain she was slightly sizey, and I just knew where I needed to go to hit the jackpot. And unfortunately, as is the case in some toy kennels, I was led down the garden path for a little while and then refused at the last moment. I bred some CC winners. I bred some dogs that I was proud of, but I never, I bred really good ones with bad front, really good ones with a bad bite, really good ones with, there was always, I never bred
something.
Really, there was always something.
Okay. And is that something that you will try once again to fix in the future or not?
No, I've done
no. No. Okay. What about Papillons?
Well, Papillons. So I became friendly with a girl called Margaret, with a famous, a relatively new but quite famous. She was a well-known Yorkie breeder, and I knew her through Osman. She was a very close friend of Osman, of the famous Osmanian Yorkies, and Osman's a great friend of mine. And anyway, she had Papillons, and I decided I wanted a Papillon. So she had a bitch that she was parting with, not a show bitch, a beautifully bred brood bitch, and I bought her. And since then, we've had, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6, no, about 5 champions. And Tom is, interestingly, one of the things that spurred us on with the Papillons is that Tom had them when he was a child. And so he's got a real soft spot for the breed. And they are a lovely breed. And we've been blessed by the fact that Jenny Scoville, of the famous Caswells, has allowed me to use some of the older dogs that she had. She's not breeding quite as often as she did, but to be able to just grab that famous and very beautiful classical Caswell breeding was of great benefit to us. So we've bred 1 or 2 nice ones that I've been really proud of. So
okay, PBGBs.
Well, this is a bit longer story because Gavin Robertson, obviously everybody knows Gavin, but Gavin came to work for me with a group of beagles, and they were okay. They were quite nice quality. He had a good young dog that he made up to a champion, but the problem was that at the time I was the handler of the American Cockers, and we were just getting into poodles, and it seemed stupid for him to be like play second fiddle to me in those breeds, and I wanted to encourage him. So, and I told him that the beagles at the time were a hotbed of powerful people. I mean, it was like incredible. When I look back, it was extraordinary it was just a breed that was full of powerful people with very, very good dogs from very famous kennels. And I said to Gavin, I said, listen, you're gonna really struggle in this breed. You're gonna just you might every so often you're probably gonna just sneak in and do well, but they're too powerful for you to take on. And at the time, Nick Frost was leaving and was just about to leave and go to the States. And I said, listen, Petite Basset Griffon Blondines is what we want. You can head that whole thing up, and there's a huge opening. Anyway, I studied the breed. I'm always been one for pedigrees and try to work out what recipes give the best cakes, as it were. And it was the Dira E litter and Dira X litter that were the jackpots as far as I was concerned, and they were repeat breedings of one another. Eminence, Aigrelard, Zato. These two repeat breedings were incredible. And so what I did was I set about trying to find anything that was available that majored on those E and X Dira litters. And it wasn't very long before. I managed to buy a dog called Chemin de Fer, who was that breeding from an old terrier guy. Of course, the terrier guys would always sell, and I couldn't believe me and Gavin went over to see some puppies, and we were not keen on the puppies, but he had a 6-month-old puppy dog that he told us from the beginning was not for sale. And Gavin, of course, was like, "Oh, we must buy one of these puppies." I said, "We don't want one of the puppies, Gavin. We want the 6-month-old puppy dog. His name's Teddy." Anyway, I did have to pay a bit over the odds for him, and I was very poor at the time. But anyway, he was Chemin de Fer. He won a group. He had a good career in the States. He was a fantastic dog, actually. It was lovely and a great start in Petite. Then, for the same reasons, I phoned and spoke to Judah Smith of Tibetan Terrier fame, Willowbrae Tibetan Terrier fame. She had this same breeding, and she'd used an import dog from Holland, who I liked. I asked her if we could have a puppy out of the litter. She had 2 bitches. We picked the bitch over the phone from a description, and that became Amazing Grace, Willowbrae Amazing Grace, and she was the next breed record holder and was a reserve versus show winner. And then we bred from another one that we had from Nick's partner, Biff Phillips, a lovely bitch, and again that same breeding. We bred that to Chemin de Fer, and we bred Woody Woodpecker, and he was our first best in show winner. So, and then there were several other champions, but then Gavin left, and he obviously has become something of a legend in that breed, and I'm proud to be at the background of all of that. So he's done exceptionally well.
Wonderful. What about Italian Spinones?
Right. This is even more bizarre. My dear, darling friend Linda Collins, who sadly died quite a lot of years ago now, she was like my sister, and I loved her dearly. When she bought her first Spinone, and it was from one of the early litters, her name was Sackle Romeo Rio of Winset. She went on to become a big deal as a dam in that breed. But anyway, and Linda became she was the big star of Spinones. But when she bought this bitch, I was like, she showed English setters. She'd had some success in English setters. And I was like, are you crazy? These will never take off. What on earth are you doing? What the hell have you bought this for? I played hell with her about it. Anyway, of course, I then became friendly. She'd sold this guy, John Piggins and his wife. But funnily enough, and they're the people who I bought the mini wire for that they never got, which I won and did a lot winning with. Anyway, so I became friendly. They lived not far from me. He was a gamekeeper. He had work in Bedlingtons, and he got this bitch off. And it was a little bitch. She was small. Anyway, he decided he was going to use a dog called Fred, and Fred had long legs. He was just a terrible dog, really, when I look back. He did a little bit of winning in the ring, but he was quite well owned. And it was when the breed was new, and really a lot of people didn't know what they were supposed to be like. So he kind of won, but all the breed people hated him. But he had 3 or 4 fabulous sisters, which independently were the foundations of some big kennels in Spinones. Anyway, off his own back, John decided he wanted to use Fred. Well, then 1 or 2 people, and one in particular, I won't say any names, they threatened him, phoned him up and threatened him. If he used this dog, they would destroy this litter and they would damage him. He would never win. And this, you never heard such crap in all your life. Anyway, so Linda told me about it. And the next time I went over, John had got puppies. And I helped him select, Linda and I helped him select a bitch out of that litter. And I said, are you still having any problems with these people? And he was like, oh, yeah, they've been really bad, really bad. I said, right, well, I'll show her then. I'll have my name on her and I'll show her. Anyway, she was top rare breed the year that we showed her. And whilst all the bloody Spinone people were concentrating on thick skins and heavy bone and God knows what, we had this bitch that was beautifully constructed and sound, and some of the early Spinones were a bit cringy and a bit like, cow-ocked and falling on the floor. So, we were getting group short lists, and with her, and it was kind of a game changer. When we bred her, I selected the sire, and we went down and we used a beautiful dog that had gone. He'd won a puppy group, I think, or a group two. Anyway, it was a beautiful dog, and his father was an overtype, heavy Italian import. Anyway, because I know you want me to be quick, but we used this dog, and the litter, when they were born, they were beautiful puppies. And again, all the people in Britain called them all names, all Italian names, Chianti, and I don't know what, just all Italian names. Anyway, we had Reckless Eric, Galadine Reckless Eric. And he became, and it was so funny because John and I talked about when we had thought the CCs might be on offer for the breed, you know, because nobody knows that's the Kennel Club, and it's kind of a secret until it's declared. And I was saying to John, you know, I think these puppies could be just right, just the right age when we get the CC allocation, so we could make up the first champion, if that was the dream. And sadly, John was killed in a car accident, so he never saw the dog that he bred actually become the first champion in the breed, which was Eric. And then Eric's sister I put out on breeding terms, and she produced a dog that was the next breed record holder, and a bitch that I made up very comfortably, a beautiful bitch. And then I bred them for a little while, and I co-bred the newest breed record holder. And of course, when I told Linda that they would never take off, when we made up Eric, and of course the great, he was owned in part because I couldn't keep out of the tiny house when John died, and he went to Clive Davis, famous Sunderlee, a very famous gun dog man. Anyway, it's his first show cross, there was 130. His second show was SKC, and there was 85, and he got made up at the club show at their inaugural championship show, and there was 165. So what did I know about whether a breed would take off? Because it was certainly right. So
yeah.
But anyway, it was a lot of fun, and it was kind of to stick two fingers up at these people who threatened John, you know. So and it worked. We did okay.
Okay, Shelties. That's also a little bit controversial.
Yeah. I haven't made up. Well, we haven't. Jason is the front man in the Shelties, but I've got a big passion for American Shelties. Now the British, we should have a bell saying that we've got the plague when we go to the ring, and of course we won CC and Best of Breed under Carrie Arvinen with a beautiful American bitch. She'd won winner's bitch at the national from like 300 class bitches. She was gorgeous. We would have persevered and made her up. She was a little bit indifferent showgirl. She didn't always use her ears. But anyway, she won, and the breed people went berserk. They all like, I don't know, 50 of them tromped into the secretary's office to write, do a petition so that Carrie Arvinen judged to the American standard, which was absolute rubbish because, as we all know, the FCI judges judged to a standard from the country of origin. So it was the very worst aspect of bad behavior from dog people. And it also highlighted when they get like into a frenzy like a pack. It was a bit like a scaled down version of Trump supporters, but they were against us.
Okay.
But what I'm going to say is this before we just leave leave Shelties. We are breeding a combination of beautiful English stock. Don't get me wrong. You know, unlike some of the British who believe that there's nothing outside of Britain, some of the British stock is absolutely beautiful. I myself gave a reserve besting show, a dog show of what, 7,000-8,000 dogs. I gave a reserve besting show to a pure English bred Sheltie, who's absolutely beautiful. If you appreciate beauty, and you can also appreciate what a breed needs, then some of the British dogs are overly refined. They lack underjaw. Sometimes they have not got nice parallel head planes. American dogs can be too heavy, can be too coarse, but not all of them. And that soundness, that little bit more bone, that underjaw can be found in American dogs. So if only British breeders would realise that it's not like, somebody with the plague, that in most breeds now, where we breed as a world community, there are still one or two breeds that refuse to acknowledge that there is something to be gained by looking outside of the box.
Yeah.
So sorry, Chelsea people.
Yeah, for calling you Trump supporters. Okay. Anyhow, Irish Water Spaniels.
Okay, again, a breed that I've always loved. And I think, when I eventually started with standard poodles, I think on Gundog Day, they were of course kind of the poodle of the Gundog world. Peppy Barrington Manuel, of Finder fame, one of the most absolutely extraordinary people you'd wish to meet. Very closely descended from British aristocracy. If you met her, and I mean this in the fondest possible way, she's a barking mad, wonderful British. She's just perfect. I love her. Anyway, she bred fantastic Irish Water Spaniels. I co-owned a big dog. He was a little bit too big, but he was beautiful, called Erin Brew, with her, and showed him. And then I co-owned a dog called Finder Casper. He was a dog that she'd sold to a nice girl who I was friendly with, and he was a champion too. But they're a beautiful breed when they're at the best. I hate to see these very heavy, like Staffordshire Bull Terriers with a ringlet coat. If when you get them beautiful, when they've got like a 50-50 skull, and whilst you want a little bit of back skull, you don't want the big flared back skull. When they're good, they're brilliant. A brilliant breed, very lovely.
Yeah, it's definitely a very nice breed, yes. And then Clumber Spaniels.
Well, that was basically Doug Johnson wanted to. He came to. I think he came over for Crufts or something. But anyway, Doug wanted to leave. We admired this dog enormously. +6 overdue bill. While we were in the conversation about how gorgeous he was, and again, it's another breed that I've always been fond of since the days of Faith Gillam and Ray Finesse. It's been tragic for the breed that Britain lost those two great breeders. But they're always been a breed that I've admired enormously. Anyway, Doug wanted to leave Bill in the UK to get his British title, and so I was very happy to grab him, and we had a lot of fun with him before he went back to the States. But he was a lovely dog.
Athens.
Well, every time I don't give CCs in Appen Pinchers, but I judge. In England we have these open shows, which sometimes you get you get good entries. And every time I judged Appen Pinchers at one of the open shows, I loved them. Even the really bad ones, I loved. It could be a terrible specimen, but I still would be smiling looking at these things, thinking, God, I love these. And so for years, I thought, right, I must have one of these. I must have one of these. I must have one of these. Anyway, I booked a puppy from the Russian lady, Kalina, but before that anything happened with that, we were at Eukanuba, or the national championships. I never know what it's called these days. I still call it Eukanuba, with Tom and I, and we went to watch the Appen Pinchers. And of course, we're very, very good friends with Rebecca, the terrier girl, with the Scotties.
With the Scotties, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we've been friendly with her for years, and she's a great girl, and we're close. Anyway, we went to watch the Appen Pinchers, and we'd missed the 6 to 9 class. Tom came. Tom had nipped to the loo just before Winner's dog went in, and when we came back, when he came back from the loo, he was saying, "Who is that dog?" I says, "That's 6 to 9." He says, "No, the one with Rebecca." I said, "Yeah, that's the 6 to 9." He said, "Yeah, but it can't be." I said, "That's the 6 to 9. That's the one we missed. That's the class winner we missed." Anyway, it went Winner's dog. She whisked off from the ring, and we followed her back to the benches. The dog was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And we were like, we didn't know you had these. Oh yeah, my mum's had them. She really loves this breed, and blah blah blah. And I was like, he's gorgeous. So she said, oh yeah, he only needs like a single to finish. He was like 8 months old. She said, oh, only needs a single to finish. I said, what are you going to do with him then? So she says, well, he'll sit at home until he grows up a bit. I said, well, can he sit at our home? Anyway, she brought him to Crofts. He was still a puppy, and he got the ticket and best of breed at Crofts. And he finished the year top lap and pincher. He had a couple of group placements, and I have several of his children. They're a fantastic breed. Well, you'll be fully aware of that, Auntie.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the ones that you and Javier have shown. So they're a breed, really super.
Yeah, you must love them. There is no other way. Like once you get one, you get like completely hooked on them. It's impossible to. Yeah. Shibas.
Well, yeah. Well, listen. Technically, I own a champion in Shibas, but my involvement has been minimal. Jason and I went to Japan. I was judging out there. We had a holiday while we were out there, and Shinji, a friend of ours, we were treated so well. You know, the Japanese are always very courteous with their guests, and we had a fantastic time. But Shinji took us to one or two kennels in Japan, and we went to a Shiba kennel, and I saw a bitch that I liked and said we should have that. Anyway, we got it home, and it was like, well, what are we going to do with this? You know, we never wanted a Shiba. So, and you know, it's a nice breed, but we've got so much to do with the bloody poodles. I mean, that's the thing. Once the poodles came along, it's really difficult to do anything else. But we've got friends who've been successful in Shibas. They're a mother and daughter team, Belinda and Charlotte. And we were like, do you want this bitch? And they were like, oh, yeah, we'd love her. So anyway, she bred a champion, which as a thank you, they put my name on her. So that's, and there's an Afterglow litter out right now, but they're a lovely breed. It's just that, you know, we knew we wouldn't be able to do it justice, and she's a beautifully bred bitch, and hopefully she looks like she's going to be a good producer, so that's the main thing.
Wonderful. Okay, we are coming almost to the end of the list before we start with the main breeds. As I said in the beginning, I want to talk a little bit more about standard poodles, but let's mention then before we start with that other two sizes of poodles, because you are very successful also with them. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we've only had one miniature poodle champion, but she was a gorgeous bitch. A friend of mine brought her in from Tina, in the world famous Tina, Cam Moy's bitch, and he wasn't unable to keep her, and so I took her on, and she was a great moving bitch, a beautiful bitch. She never had a particularly good coat, but she was lovely type, in size. On the move, she was difficult to ignore. So she got made up quite quickly. But it's toys really that have been for a long time. We've had toys from the famous Leslie Howard of Greycoat fame. She's been very kind to us. She gave us a great start. We had one or two white toys that were American and Japanese based, and you know, we've had one or two champions in white, but primarily we have blacks, and we've had some super dogs over the years, and in fact, of course, Tom, his passion is toy poodles, and we've sort of, you know, the toy poodle thing has gone into another gear since Tom joined us. Jason made up a beautiful bitch in Continental. It was the first toy poodle made up. That was an Italian bitch from Stefano, famous, of course. Again, you're well involved with Lars's and the Maltese, but he bred a beautiful bitch that Jason found. It was his little project. He wanted to show her in Continental, made her up. I think it was the first bitch for 30 odd years that was made up in that trim. Tom's piloted the top toy for the last few years, one after another boys. Aloysius was the best in show winner, co-owned by our dear friend John Shaw from Hong Kong. They've all been group winners, and Miller and Pia we were judging in Finland, and Tom gave two sisters several. He put up three siblings aside by a dog that died tragically, but was these siblings were by this dog, and of course that made it all very interesting. So we spoke to the girls, got a great relationship going. They've become great friends of ours, and they had a nice dog from us that they've done well with, and we, in return, they gave us a selection. I flew out there, and there was a selection of puppies for me to choose from, and we selected Finn. Bit obvious, Finn from Finland, and he was going to be. He'd gone best in show British utility breeds at the end of 19. And then the first show of 20 was Manchester, and he won the group there. Big show, very big show. We had a change of judge, sadly, which was perhaps somebody that. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. But
why? Now I'm interested.
No.
Come on.
But we had somebody who loved the dog judging the breed, and she was taking a lot judging was at 10 o'clock, and she was taking ill at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And so it was, I'm not saying we would have won, but she was somebody who had admired the dog. Anyway, we didn't win, but that was his last show. And of course, I think he was set to have a great career this year. And sadly, he's still in coach, still looks beautiful. But we just bath and blow dry him, and Tom just bath and blow dry him and keeps him trimmed and keeps him looking gorgeous. And of course, there's nobody to see him, only us. So, but basically, the toys are, and we've got some fantastic youngsters at the moment. And the first Browns have come along, which we're interested in. But yeah, that's good fun. A great fun little breed. They're a great little breed.
Okay, we have passed this long list of the breeds in which there were Afterglow champions, and you will be happy to hear that in the first 1 hour of the interview, you had 250 comments, 51 shares of the interview, and it's over 450 people watching it live. So definitely we are breaking all the records, and deservedly so. What I want to ask you before we start with with your main breeds, we mentioned now all these breeds. What I want to know is what at the moment you have in the Afterglow. Which breeds do you have now?
We have obviously the Shelties are important. We've just imported a beautiful dog from the States, which is a male, so he's gonna be advantageous for our blacks. We've got obviously the standards, we've got the toys, we've got Affenpinchers, Papillons, and
obviously American Cockers.
Yes, but less so. The American Cockers have been. We haven't got so many American Cockers anymore, but we've got two real beauties. The Crumb, Susan, I call her the Crumb.
Yeah.
She has a gorgeous black bitch, Riley, and Jason has the young dog. I think it was his third show at Crufts. He got the ticket from the junior class. A really handsome young dog, Rolex. So and again, they're bathing and blow drying every few days.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Anyhow, okay. I'm really happy to see that so many people are watching, and I'm extremely thankful to all of you for putting all these comments. As I mentioned before, now we will start talking about Mike's main breeds, and if you have some questions about anything that we talked before or about what we are going to talk after, please keep these questions for the end of the interview, because I have seen that there have been some really nice and interesting questions. But if we stop now, every time when somebody puts the question, we are going to get completely lost because there are so many. So I promise you, I will keep Mike at the end for at least 10-15 minutes only for your questions. and I think that will be the best solution. And also, I see that while we are talking, a lot of you are tagging me in your Instagram stories, which I very thankful for, and please continue doing so, because obviously we are witnessing the record interview in Talking Dogs with Ante. What I want to ask you now, Mike, even if your first breed and one of the two breeds you have been most successful with were the American Cockers, and then quite often you say standard poodles are your heart breed. But whenever you go into a discussion or a talk about your all-time favorite dog, you always come to this Afghan Hound Bitch Riot. What was so special about her?
Well, she came to me when she was about 3 years old, and it took a little while to make her into a show dog, and she was shaved off when I got her, and various friends thought I'd lost my mind when I showed them to her. And I remember Jeff Oswell. Jeff used to live quite close to me, and Jeff came over for dinner one night, and I was like, "Look at this, Jeff! I'm so excited about her." And he was like, "Well, I'll take your word for it." You know, I mean, she did look a bugger, but she was. Is it acceptable for me to say that she was the best Afghan ever in the world?
Absolutely.
because that's actually, with the exception of putting on the Ritz, who I was obsessed with, who was her grandfather, I kind of believed that about her. She was just fabulous, and you know, we grew a coat, and she was a blonde, glamorous, straight, beautiful coat, like strands of straight silk gold, just beautiful, just a beautiful bitch. And she showed like hell for me. You know, she loved me, I think, as much as I loved her, and which was you know, I just adored her. And we had 4 best breeds at Crufts. In entries of 300, were not uncommon at all. There's always 2 judges. I was brand new in the breed, and I believe that and she's the bitch record holder as well. But I believe that had I been in the breed for a few years and then got Riot, I think the sky would have been the limit. I mean, with some hostility from some areas of the breed at the time, you know, she finished number 5 all breeds the best year, you know, because I showed her for quite a few years, but I didn't show her a lot. I would retire her for a little while and then
come back.
a bit like Peter, you know. She had 2 retirements, but she was, you know, to be honest with you, she kind of, what was interesting about her was the old school Afghan people from the past loved her because they thought she looked like one of Sheila Devitt's Carlaway. Carlaway was so famous and so held in such massive regard. And of course, there was a combination of breeding from around the world at that time. And the old breeders, I didn't know Sheila Devitt, and I had only ever seen pictures of the Carlaways, but I kind of got it that, you know, Helen Barnes and the Wilson, there was just a lot of them thought she looked like something from the past, not like, because she was American bred. I mean, that was the point. She was bred in Ireland, but she was pure American. But the old school kind of fell for it, and they helped me because the people who were perhaps been around for, I don't know, 20 years, a lot of those were hostile. But the old lot, the old guard, as it were very good to me, and they actually helped me a great deal. But anyway, I was going to retire her. I took her to Crufts when she was like 10, and she looked fantastic. She could have won the breed easily could have won the breed. And I had her in the veteran class, and an all-rounder was judging, and somebody who perhaps wasn't wild about me, to be honest. Anyway, I got second in the veteran class.
Okay.
And she'd had this incredible Crufts career and group placements. She never won the group of Crufts, but she had seconds and thirds of Ivy. And people genuinely, I'm not just saying this, but lots of people thought she should have won at Crufts, you know, won the whole thing. But anyway, she didn't. So it's history now, that. But I decided she looked amazing, absolutely amazing. 10 years old, she looked like a 5-year-old. She looked fantastic. So, and she was second. I was absolutely beside myself, like deranged. The woman who beat me, she's dead now, bless her. Her name was Frances. Frances loved Riot. She was crying because she'd beaten me. I mean, it was the most extraordinary thing ever. I mean, it was a huge veteran class. There was like 15 in it. And the woman who beat me was like literally saying, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I've beaten Riot. And, you know, she had this big fat old pet. You know, it would have been a show dog in its time, but it looked like a big, it should be just lying in front of the fire. But anyway, the following year, for some reason, I couldn't show or didn't want to show. Again, it might have been somebody who I felt that would have perhaps viewed me before the dog. But the year after, it was Hans Muller judging, and he'd admired her when she was young. But by this time,
wasn't it Uwe Fischer?
Yes, it was. Sorry, it was. I'm sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
Well done, you. Your memory.
Okay. I did my homework.
Anyway, the point is, and I apologise for getting that wrong, but she was nearly 12 and she'd gone a little bit grey, but she still looked beautiful. She still had a beautiful coat. She was fantastic. And I won the bet, and I thought I couldn't retire this bitch on second in veteran at Crufts. So I had to go back and win the veteran class. And when I won the veteran class, I was so pleased and so happy. And I was kind of sad because I knew that was going to be our absolute last show. Anyway, when it came to the bitch challenge, he judged he moved us all again, and then he shortlisted just the limit bitch and Riot, and then got rid of everybody, and it was like incredible. I have to be honest that I did not want to win the bitch ticket that day because with there being two judges, she was slowing down. You know, she'd been in the class, she'd won the class, she'd been in the challenge. You know, and I could feel that she was showing for me, and she always showed for me. But I could feel that she was you know, she was getting tired. And I thought, if we win the bitch ticket here, we're going to have to do the same thing again for the co-judge, and then if they disagree, we get the referee in. And I thought, this isn't, you know, I actually felt that I didn't really want to progress, and I didn't quit. I showed it to the best of her and my ability, but we were beaten for the ticket, and it's one of the few occasions I can honestly say with my hand on my heart that I was delighted to be beaten, and I cried like a baby. And there's an interesting little story there. When I'd love to know who the person was who said it, because I was actually broken up. I think the emotions just tore me up really, and there was photographs being taken, and there was tears were streaming down my face. And I heard somebody say, "Look at Gadsby trying to pretend he's human," which and you know, I would shake their hands because I can be a little waspish at times, and I just, whoever said it, you know, hats off to you, because I thought it was a brilliant barb by and one I would have been proud to make myself. So.
Yeah. Okay, and then let's stay on that subject. Did you ever cry again in the ring after that?
I think I've had a few tears of rage at times. I've got maybe tears of frustration, but no, I think that's my only time where I've actually cried.
Okay, and was that the last time that you have been satisfied with the reserve CC?
Yes. Yeah.
No, that's about that. Okay. What I want to ask you, Mike, you mentioned that she won 4 times best of breed at Crufts, and she was 3 times placed in the group. Is it something that you are really sad about, that she never won the group there?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was really tragic, really. I mean, just tragic. The year that Leonard Pagliaro judged, the ringside she was a huge ringside favourite. People used to cry. They used to say their hair stood on, their hair stood on end. She gave them goosebumps. The bitch, the Afghan ring was packed with people who came to see her. And, you know, so I was disappointed. I got a shortlist under Mr. Pagliario and didn't get a placement. She was on fire. Harry Jordan was, I think, judging Best in Show, and he had a companion, Sue, who she's a Tibetan Terrier lady. Just forgotten for a second name. But anyway, so Sue said to me afterwards, he'd said to her, he loved the Afghan. He didn't say any more. But the point is, there were times when maybe the Best in Show judge would have been good for her, but I couldn't get out of the group. And then, but I mean, I got beaten. Listen, good dogs won the group. You have to be philosophical at times. I don't think I looked at that bit through rose-coloured glasses, because now, after all these years, it's been a long time now, but people still come to me and say to me that they thought she should have won Crofts, and a lot of people just loved the bitch like I did. So
you never got a litter from her, but you bred some Afghans. Why?
Yeah.
Why you never had a litter with her, and why did you stop with the Afghans?
Well, she never ovulated. She came in season, and she would be standing for a dog that wouldn't look at her. A fertility vet said that she was displaying all the signs of the season, but it wasn't a proper season. So I never managed to get puppies from her, which was a great source of sadness. She'd had a couple of litters. I mean, she was young when I got her, and she'd already had a couple of litters. And I personally probably wouldn't. I mean, he was a big winning dog and a big producing dog, but I personally wouldn't have chosen him or her had I a choice. But anyway, I managed to acquire one of the daughters, and from that I bred a good champion bitch called Jezebel. No, not called Jezebel. Called Afterglow After the Fire, or something to do with fire. A nice couple bought her as a pen, decided to show her, and she became a champion. It was kind of one of those like fairy tale stories in a way. But then I managed to get hold of another bitch that was related to her, a very good bitch actually. And from that I bred a couple of champions. One of them won the group at the European show, I think, with Liz Millward. She showed him. Lovely dog, Jumping Rainbows. He could have been a slightly bigger, but he was a great moving dog. But anyway, here's the thing. She was unique, and I could bash my head against the wall forever and never get another riot. And I learned that relatively quickly, that it was never going to happen. And so I've dreamed of an Afghan light riot. I saw a Japanese bitch a few years ago that I loved when she was a junior. I gave her a group as a junior, and then she went to the States and did some good winning in the States, and then she went back to Japan to be mated, but she was old, and I think they were going to do an AI breeding on that. Anyway, I put some feelers out and said, if you get something from it, I can't remember her name now, but it was a beautiful bitch. That would have piqued my interest a little bit, but I think perhaps that if they would be lucky to get her pregnant, and certainly I never heard anything. So
okay,
I don't.
Okay. So, but there is okay. It looks like you don't feel that story has totally finished for you.
Listen, you can never say never. I think it's finished. If something, you see, not only do you have to be dazzled by something, which I think is very difficult. The breeds. The numbers are not the same. It's changed a little. I still see Afghans that I admire enormously, but there's never been, well, that bitch from Japan, and there was a black dog in the States that I liked enormously that I tried to borrow for a season, but that never happened. But, never say never, because one day something could just happen. And I never miss. And one of the things, I think a lot of our success is attributed to the fact that I never miss an opportunity. It doesn't matter whether the timing's wrong or we've not got enough money and I have to scrape around to try and find the money. I don't miss opportunities. I think it's the one. I've had luck, and I think I've capitalized on the luck. You need luck and then you need to know when you've got luck. You need to spot it.
That's true. That's true. Okay, my last question about Afghans. When you compare the Afghans of today in the UK to your bitch, do you think that the breed is going in a good direction, or you think it's not going in a good direction?
Well, I think the problem is it's not. Look, I don't think the breed's going in a brilliant direction in the whole world, and that doesn't mean to say there's not some beautiful animals out there. The problem is Afghans are no longer a breed. They had that heyday when everybody had an Afghan. It's a bit like everybody's got a bloody cockapoo now. I mean, in its day, Afghans were the thing. So the point is, number one, we haven't got as many breeders as we had. And now, if you take a breed like Afghans, that it's maybe not easy to have a volume of puppies because it might be difficult to find the right homes. And of course, they do need, with the coat and everything, they do need specialist homes. And they're a bit disobedient off the lead. Yeah, they're a lovely dog, but they come with one or two challenges. But you haven't got the kennels, you haven't got the big kennels. Breeds sometimes, it's all very well outcross into this and outcross into that and outcross into this, but then in the litter box you end up with a litter of all different types and shapes and sizes, and I think that's not good. And I think that breeders being able, I think that old breeders had a breeding program, and often they would create their own stud dogs and keep a stud dog. The point is, it's. I think that the Afghan breeders are at a disadvantage because they're a big breed, and I think that you've got to be careful. You can't breed too many and I think that's placed them at a disadvantage. So I think there was more depth of quality years ago.
Okay. Okay. We go now to the American Cockers. That has been one of your first breeds, and I think when I read this your explanation about why you started with the American Cockers, I think that says a lot about you, how intelligent you have always been with the dogs, because you said that at that early time, and you have been just a teenager, first of all, you said you wanted to have an attractive dog, if we talk about coat and presentation. But then you said also you were thinking you want to have a breed that it's not so difficult to break in, because you said there were breeds which you liked, but have been, as you mentioned before, with Gavin and the Beagles, too many strong people. So you wanted to find a breed where you could easily go in and start winning something. Tell me a little bit about this beginning with the American Cockers. How did it go?
Well, I told you that down the lane from the village that I lived in, there was 3 really, really good breeders, and Liz Buttrick was a very good breeder of English Cocker Spaniels. She always fancied American Cockers, and she bought a bitch. What was she called? Bansheel I'm Smart's Tart was her name. Anyway, she bought this bitch, and she dropped a coat, like a lot of, particularly the party colours in the day, and the buffs they can drop the coat and it can finish their show careers. They shouldn't be excessively coated. They certainly shouldn't be woolly coated, but and I'll reward a lightly coated American Cocker bitch because it's correct to the standard. But you can get them where they get like set of legs, and they can be impossible to show. Anyway, she was a bitch like that. So I was a kid, and I had a car. My dad used to buy me old cars because I used to destroy them, and then I'd say, can I borrow the money for another car? And he'd say, well,
what it means I used to destroy them.
Well, just I've never been a kind person to a car, and in them it it was less so. So I mean, I would not put oil in or anything.
Okay.
Okay. And they were old cars. I mean, they only ever used to cost a few £100. But so I can't remember what it was. A white one. I can't remember what the hell it was. But anyway, it was destroyed. The engine was destroyed or something. And Liz Buttrick's husband, he was a mechanic. So I swapped Smarty, a bitch that had dropped all its hair, for my car.
Okay.
And from her, and Andrew Kane had brought in a dog from the world famous Dreamridge kennel called Dreamridge. He'd won the group at Crufts early on with delegates. Anyway, he brought in another import from the Dreamridge kennel called Dandy, a son of the very famous Dandy man. And looking back, I thought it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It was red and white. But looking back, it was a little bit overdone and perhaps a little bit soft backed. There was some issues with it. Beautiful coated dog, and gorgeous. A bit overtyped, if anything, but a lovely dog. Anyway, I used Dandy on Smarty, and I produced a bitch. My first ever litter. I produced a bitch called Afterglow Angelic Upstart. That was the name of a punk band. I like that name. Anyway, she won. I took it. So the first American Cocker I showed was actually a homebred little bitch that I won with. She won a few puppy classes, and then she, like her mother, dropped her hair. So I then waited, and then I bred her to a son of Dandy called Champion Danton Don Juan, owned by a girl called Sue Oldsworth. So I did a half brother to half sister breeding and produced Sultan of Swing, who was my first homebred champion, and he was a multiple group winner, and he was a lovely dog. But unfortunately, that line, he produced one or two champions, but that line we eradicated through. We had cataracts, unfortunately. I mean, the breed has always been, suffered from eye problems, and we had cataracts, so we weren't able to breed on from that. But it's certainly, I had a lot of fun at the time, and he had a good life, and so I mean, it's not a painful disorder; it's just a debilitating one. So, but anyway,
I mean, yeah. What's amazing that you have been for so many years extremely successful with the American Cockers, but you, as you mentioned now with this dog, you had like few times had to take out some, for you at that time, important dogs out of your lines because of some kind of diseases. How did that stop you a lot? Did that make you upset? How did you deal with that? Because you have this dog and you have high hopes, and then you just find out he has cataract and you need to take it out of your line. How did you deal with that?
Well, actually, funnily enough, I mean, I was very upset that day because we'd gone to a club show, and at our specialty shows, we often had an eye specialist there, so the breeders could take their stock in to have them eye tested at the show. And one of his sons had gone best in show, and another son had gone best puppy in show. And Mr. Heath, who was a real dear old vet. I mean, at the time, he wasn't that old. He was very old to me because I was very young. But looking back, he was probably my age. Anyway, this dear old man, I was busy. While he was examining the eyes, I was rattling, I can talk a lot. So I'm rattling on saying, he's my pride and joy. And I haven't shown him today, but his son's won best in show and his other son's got best puppy in show, and, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he was waiting for me to shut up so he could tell me that the dog was had failed the eye test. And, and then, of course, we couldn't breed from them. Yeah. And it was a bit unexpected because, you're young and you've not experienced it. So you kind of think you're invincible. And it was shattering, to be honest with you. So, and it wasn't the first time that we had to stop a line that was highly successful. We had to do it on several occasions. So
yeah, this is quite frustrating. But okay, you have been obviously quite stubborn, and you decided like you're. Tell me, considering all that, are the American Cockers today a healthy breed?
Well, the problem is, in the early days, they told us like the eye problems, the cataract was a simple recessive. Without being a geneticist and without being an eye specialist, I realised years ago that there was nothing simple about the cataracts, because if it was a simple recessive, we could work it out and we could deal with it. But the problem, and what it is, there are several different types of cataract, which one breed might have this type of cataract, and so you can deal with it. Another breed could have another one. I believe that American cockers have several types of cataract, which is why there have been occasions in the past. I personally haven't had this, but there have been occasions in the past where a bitch has had a litter whilst it's had clear eyes to a dog that's had a litter, and used a dog that had clear eyes. They've produced a litter, and subsequently both parents have gone down with cataract, and none of the puppies have gone down with cataract. And so I believed immediately, I thought, well, it's impossible for that not to happen unless there was two different types of cataract, and the opposite dog, if the dog had this cataract A, the bitch didn't carry cataract A. And if the bitch had cataract B, then the dog didn't carry cataract B. So consequently, all the puppies would carry the genetics to produce A and B, but not actually go down. And so because of that, because I think it's a complicated gene, we're struggling, and we're still struggling to this day. And it's a tragedy, because, it's no secret, and I make no secret of it. I mean, imagine having your Crufts Best in Show winner go down with cataract, and Miami went down with cataract. Jason took him, the dog, out playing, running, catching balls, never in a million years. And then, poor Jason, going up to Penrith to see the eye specialist and being absolutely stunned to say that the dog had got cataract. And, and we have both his parents, and they're free of cataract, and all of his grandparents are free of cataract. So, it's good. Yeah. That's the reason why people, need to go to people like us, like most of the breed, because whilst we can't guarantee things, when people are testing and being honest, and you can't, you've got a far better chance of getting something that's going to be healthy than if nobody tests or nobody cares. So the breed people have done a good job, and it's not a common thing. It's just, sometimes you get shot, happens, more than once.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating. Yeah. Tell me, Mike, when you compare the American cockers of today to the American cockers that you started with, do you think the breed is going in a good direction?
No, it's not. Definitely not. Definitely not. Because the breed should be a sporting spaniel. It should be capable of working. It should have width of chest. It should have a long rib cage. It should have large teeth. It should not have a pushed in face, little tiny short full face like a canary. It should have great shoulders and a long upper arm, and a really well-rounded angulation in the rear and short ox. He should be able to move effortlessly with a big open side gate, lots of reach, lots of drive. The coat should not be woolly, it should be silky. And I look at the breed, sadly, and I see woolly coats, small teeth, pushed in faces, restricted front movement, toyishness, tiny, and these tiny little faces that couldn't pick up a budgie, and I think, we're in the sporting group. We're not in group 9. We're not in the toy group, and breeders need to get a grip on that and realise, and judges too, this is a sporting dog. They should be, and they should be glamorous, don't get me wrong, but they are a sporting dog, and some breeders have lost sight of that.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned what are at the moment, in your opinion, the biggest problems of the breed. But if you would need to explain to somebody how the perfect American Cocker looks like for you, or what are the most important features of the breed, what would you say?
Well, I mean, a beautiful face with a large eye that's not protruding, a deep stop. They should never be down faced. So the top of the nose should be at a right angle to the stop. They should never have these weak, thin lipped forefaces. The head, when viewed from above, should look like a peanut in the shell. You know, so if you imagine a peanut with two peanuts in it, you've got a round bit at both ends and then a slight depression. So a refined back skull, low set ears, full eyes but not protruding, large teeth, these thick, fat lips that create this peanut effect, a long arched neck, sloping shoulders, a long upper arm. They should be able to feel a fore chest. The depth of chest should be sufficient to go to at least to the elbows. The ribs should expand. That is a terrible fault in all breeds, short rib cages, and American Cockers suffer really badly with this fault. So a long rib cage, a slightly sloping top line, and the slightly sloping top line should not be created because you've got a straight front and a straight upper arm, which is giving you inches of height at the withers. It should be because it should be doable with a good front, a slightly sloping top line, and a powerful rear, powerful, well-muscled rear. And of course, the top line straight off the back. And these Shih Tzu tails that we're seeing now, where the tails go straight up and over the back like a bloody Shih Tzu, they are an abomination. They are an abomination. And finally, the coat, silky, never woolly. You know, woolly coats are always big. You can make them look fabulous, but they are a woolly coat. They're incorrect. And they would never be able to work with those coats because they were just felt up. And I mean, what a mess. And one of the other things is this, which is really important, really important. There's supposed to be a short, leggy dog. And because all spaniels go back to like that Obo and Obo 2, that Sussex Spaniel style of dog way back in previous centuries. The breed, the people who created the American Cocker, the breed was split in the 30s or 40s in the States between the English Cocker and the American Cocker. They specifically said never long and low, because there's a drag of a breed going back to the beginning. And if the beginning was something that looked like a Sussex, if you start to reward dogs that are long and low, you will quickly go back to that because the breed will naturally drag back to that shape. Yeah. So it's essential that the breed is never long and low. That is like a crucial thing.
You mentioned the coat. How important is the grooming for the breed, and how difficult it is to have an American Cocker in the show condition?
Well, look, routinely, Jason and the Crumb have been the front runners with the American Cockers for the last few years. I showed a few years ago. I won a Pup of the Year with Dragon Quest. Before, of course, you guys took him and Javier won the Group of the World show with him, which was. But anyway, I won Pup of the Year with Dragon Quest. He's kind of the last one that I showed. I've shown that the odd time since then. But Jason and Susan bath and blow dry their show dogs that are in coat twice a week. They, and the dogs have natural lives. They run on the field. If you want to keep them beautiful coats and you only want to wash them once a week, then keep them in. Don't let them have any exercise. Treat them like a budgie in a cage. But if you want something that's going to develop mentally and physically in the manner which the breed all dogs should, and particularly a sporting dog, then you need to give them a lot of freedom. And of course, in England, that's particularly this time of the year, it's difficult.
Yeah.
But you've still got to do it. And,
Yeah.
you know, so, but you've got to be prepared to put in the extra time. Bitches should, you know, please, judges, don't reward American cocker bitches, or don't put down American cocker bitches because they're lighter coated. It's perfectly correct to the standard. And enormous coats, woolly coats, are worse than having no coat. If I was faced with like a cotton de Talir coat versus something that was silky but was lacking in coat somewhat, then the one that's got that silky coat is correct. And I would put, if all things being equal, I would put that over.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. And of course, the other thing is the hand stripping, and you know, spend a little bit more time hand stripping the top, you know, the top of the head rather than scissoring it into shape, because you get it's more beautiful if it's stripped into shape, and strip the top coats rather than scissoring them excessively. Again, I like to see that lovely shiny top coat going over the sides of where the long hair is, and so that you haven't got that line. You haven't got a line of it's not short hair and then a line and then long hair. It should sort of gradiate in naturally. So
yeah. Okay. Well, my last question about American cockers, and we have been talking now about the coats and grooming and everything. When Jason won Best in Show at Crafts with Miami, there has been some newspapers who were posting these comments from people saying, why would anybody call this dog a gun dog? This is not a gun dog. Look how it looks. It's not in your opinion, are the American cockers really gun dogs, or they should be moved to another group?
No, believe me when I say that if you took a selection of English cockers, show ones, not the working ones, show English cockers, and you took a selection of show American cockers, then there would be more working ability and natural aptitude to work in the cockers. And over the years, we've had lots of American cockers worked by people who've been keen to, and that, my own bit, I got Best of Breed a bit some years ago with a beautiful bit called Shake, Wiggle, Wiggle. And she was a fantastic working dog. She went and worked with a girl who had Brittany Spaniels. And at first, it was kind of almost like she was taken as a bit of a joke. But then she was kind of legendary with all those Springer and German Shorthair pointer people. She was a fantastic working dog. So whilst I personally have not worked our cockers, number one, we must breed dogs that have a sporting aspect to them. And number two, in the same way that, a working Irish Water Spaniel would not be shown in the coat that it's in, it's undoubtedly a gun dog. In the same way that Irish setters dripping in coat, they would not look like that if you worked them all the time. So if you worked an American cocker, you would either shave them off, or naturally, over time, the coat would wear down to a very coat for a working dog.
Okay, let's go. Before we start with the poodles, because Javier is in the kennel doing the Maltese, and Ivan is finishing with the dogs, I need to take live here and say, please, if one of them can come up and put my computer with the 4G of their phone, because my Wi-Fi is very slow on the computer, and I see that there are many comments coming, but I can't read them because the Wi-Fi is so bad that I'm not managing to read anything. So please, if one of the boys can come up and help me with that. Tell me, Mike, how did the story with the Standard Poodle start?
Right. Well, I could never walk past the Standard Poodle ring without stopping and enviously looking into the ring, thinking, "Oh my God, I would love to." Because what you got to remember is, Auntie, is that when you and I, years ago, I was considered to be something of a handler myself. You know, that
Yeah.
it's interesting with, particularly with Jason. I mean, Tom's a great handler of the small breeds, really great. But I mean, Jason's got such a natural talent that people have wasted no time in telling me how much better he is and how I should, you know.
I know the feeling. I know
exactly.
the feeling.
I knew you knew the feeling. But the point is that, number one, I'm not finished yet. And number two, whilst I bow to his superiority as a handler, in my day, I was considered to be, you know, pretty good. So the thought of showing a standard poodle was always, I used to look and think, oh God, I'd love to show one of those. But of course, you look at the coat, even though I had American Cockers, I would look at the coat and think, oh, I could never do that. I'd never. And of course, I've never been, I've had a successful grooming pilot, but I was never trained as a groomer. I've learned by making lots of mistakes. So anyway, in the end, I don't know what the catalyst was, but in the end, there was a point where I thought, I can't stand it any longer. I've got to have one. And I started making some inquiries of where I might get a standard poodle from. And I was offered, you know, people who knew me, and I knew quite a lot of standard poodle people, a lot of people would have been happy to let me have something. However, I chose to get 2 bitches from one of the most controversial people has ever been in standard poodles, and that was Pat Ashwell of Topaz fame. She was an incredible breeder. She'd been extraordinary in the past. Those great, you know, Topaz Shaft, Topaz Eskimo. Now, there were so many champions, there's so many beautiful dogs. She was ahead of her time. She was incredible. You know, she grew great coats on them. She was extraordinary. Then she went away for a while. She changed it. She got married. There was I don't even know the story myself, but there was some horror stories about Pat. And you know, I knew nothing. I knew there was this controversy, but I don't. You know, nobody ever really knows the truth about those things because she hears all sorts of things. But anyway, she was an extraordinary breeder of standard poodles because she resurrected herself and bred and started to breed some good dogs again. And it was at that time that I had heard that she was cutting back, and I managed to get 2 bitches off her. Topaz the Dreaming White and Topaz Image of Bell. Now, Image of Bell had already produced winner's bitch at PCA, and I bred her to a half Scandinavian bred, no, it wasn't, half American bred, a Charbel dog, half Topaz, half Charbel. And I bred the black bitch, and she had a bad front. She had weak pasterns and her feet turned down. And I bred her to this very good dog, a champion dog, Topaz Crackjack. And I had 8 puppies, and all of them had that weak pasterns. So I sold them all. I spayed the bitch and pet owned her to my best friend's mother. Now, Pat, when I told her what I'd done, she went berserk. That bitch, and blah, blah, blah. She produced winner's bitch at PCA, and blah, blah. When I looked closely at the pictures of the winner's bitch from PCA, you could see without a shadow of a doubt she had weak pasterns and bloody and feet that turned out. And so I never regretted doing that. It was the white bitch, the Dreaming White. What was her name? Dream. Her name was Dream. And I bred her to as the brother of the champion dog. There was a dog called Topaz Stars and Stripes. He was, in my opinion, there was 3 champions in that litter, and this dog that never got made up. And he was, for me, was the best one. I loved him. Anyway, I used him, and I produced from that combination. I produced a dog called Alcatraz, Christopher. And Alcatraz won a few reserve tickets from the junior class, and I was certain he was going to become my first champion. He was, you know, people liked him. He was a lovely dog, sound, beautiful dog. And he was tragically killed in a car accident I won't go into it. So quite a long story. He wasn't with me. He was with a friend. And anyway, he got killed, but not before and I mean, we were all devastated. His name was Christopher. He was a lovely dog. And, but it wasn't before he mated 2 or 3 bitches, one of which had won the bitch ticket at Crufts. I was fortunate enough to live near 3 girls, Margaret Kendall of Megan fame, Karen Patterson, Kamari, and oh God, come back to me in a minute.
Don't worry.
Anyway,
yeah, so, when it comes, you say it's not.
Yeah, it will. God, I can't believe I've forgotten. Sandra Dennison again.
Okay.
These 3 girls were great breeders, right? So anyway, Margaret had bred a beautiful bitch to Alcatraz, and she was in whelp when he was killed. And I said to Margaret, it was a beautiful champion bitch, beautiful. And I said to Margaret, if the litter was born, she phoned me up. She said, "Oh, I've got this litter. There's 2 bitches. There's a black and a white, and blah blah blah." Anyway, so I said to Margaret when they were literally just born, we just lost a black dog, and a little bit of just sentiment in me. I didn't really want to, people do that. Anyway, I said, if the white bitch is nice, can I have her? And she said, yes, I don't want to keep a white. And when the puppies were 8 weeks old and I went over, Margaret had got this white bitch in her arms. And I could tell from her body language that I was going to have a slight issue with her. Anyway, so I just grabbed her and she says, "Oh, I love her so much." And I said, "Yeah, but you promised me, darling, and I'm having her." So and I just took her. And I said, "Oh, and by the way, I'm not paying you for her." So that was a double whammy. But actually, funnily enough, I gave, after I'd shown Daisy, her name was Megan, don't eat the daisies. And after I'd shown her and I'd had 2 litters with her, I gave her back to Margaret. So Margaret got her back in the end, and she had a wonderful life with Margaret until she died. Margaret had a couple of litters with her too. So.
Okay, I think she's also one of the people watching and sending hearts all the time. So, but you will look it all by yourself later on. Of course, Javier and Ivan came up and they fixed my connection, so now I can see all the comments. We have 365 comments, so you will need some time to read them all. But of course, one of the things that they have done, they have taken the mouse of the computer, which I don't know where did they put, so I cannot scroll on. So please, if somebody can come back and help me with that. Anyhow, another thing that I want to say is that nobody till now, Mike, has managed to keep 450 people watching live already for almost 2 hours. But I don't know if you have some big plans for tonight, but I still have some questions. So I think we will have to go. We will have to go a little bit over 2 hours. Obviously, I don't need to mention that people were writing already like 1 hour ago. We want to have Mike at least for 3 hours. We want to have him at least for 3 hours. But anyhow, obviously, as long as people are watching and as long as you are available, I will try to answer to all the questions. We spoke about American Cockers. Tell me about the Standard Poodles. Are they a healthy breed?
I think, we have, we're quite a large kennel of toys and standards. The toys are very healthy little dogs. The standards, the health issues are spasmodic. It's something that thankfully is not commonplace. But there are, there's SA, which is a skin problem. And when it's severe, it's quite debilitating and difficult for people. But it's thankfully it's rare, but we have to bear in mind that that's an issue. There's Addison's, which of course is a disease that people can get, not just dogs, and there's no sign of any DNA test to help us with that. So and again, it's not thankfully it's not too common, but it exists. I think there was torsion in the breed to a. It was more common years ago. I think clever breeders have managed to mostly eradicate, the stomach twist, which is obviously a big problem. We test them for eye conditions, and there never seems to be any eye conditions. I don't know why we test. It's one of the requirements that we test for eyes, but thankfully, I never hear of anything that's an issue with eyes. But they're an incredible breed. I mean, they're just an incredible breed. They are smart and loyal, and I just love everything about them. They are absolutely my favorite breed. I adore them.
I can understand that, because whenever anybody asks me, like, what do you think, if you would like to have a top dog in one breed and show it, what would it be? I would always say a standard poodle. I think there is not any breed is not as beautiful as they are when they are pretty and when they are in top show condition. I think it's like just wow. It's definitely like one day maybe they think we are, as you said before, Mike, they think we are over, but we will try to come back and fight our fight. Yes. I want to ask you the same question that I asked you about the American Cockers. When you compare the standard poodles of today to the ones that you started with, do you think the breed is going in a good direction or not? And then in the same way, you can connect it and tell me, what do you think that at the moment are the biggest problems of the breed?
Well, I think the breed's in quite good shape. I mean, again, with the demise of the big kennels, it makes it difficult, because trying to find a new outcross that has the qualities that you like is quite difficult. But the best, you see, the standard poodles, ever since I came into the breed, standard poodles have been a breed like American Cockers, where a good one in China is a good one in America, is a good one in England, is a good one in Finland, is a good one in Australia. We are fortunate enough to be blessed with a breed that is bred the best. They are a world breed, and the breeders review breeding plans not just based on what's in the country, but what's available in the whole world. I mean, it's been horrific during this lockdown and everything, because some serious plans that we've tried to make have been thwarted. But what I'm saying is that whilst there might not be the big kennels that could produce numbers of great dogs, around the world there are really clever breeders who are doing a good job. So it's so I think they're in good shape. I mean, and as far as my pet hates over poodles, the standard poodles should have a shelf behind the tail. They shouldn't have these really steep croups. I can't stand that. These Roman noses, they should have a completely straight top to the muzzle. I remember speaking to somebody in the States who I just looked at the puppy, a 10-month-old puppy, and I was just thinking what a lovely head it had. And some woman said, and somebody else was looking at the same bitch at the same time, and she said, I wish she got a longer foreface. Anyway, I didn't know the woman, but you know what I'm like. I'm not. I said, why do you want a longer foreface? Oh, well, I would prefer to have a longer foreface. And I said, the breed standards calls for an equal length of foreface to back skull, which this bitch clearly has. Yeah, but I would like a longer foreface. And this is a big problem in a lot of breeds where we have a breed standard. If you don't like the breed standard, go and find a breed whose breed standard you do like, because we need to breed to our breed standard. And so, rewarding something with a Roman nose, which destroys its expression, with no chin, poodles should have a chin. They should have no looseness of the lips. It should be a tight lip, but they should have a little blunt end to their muzzle. It should be round because of this wonderful chin, and small eyes and chiseling, and all of those things. But certainly when you get a Roman, and then I see people growing beards on the on the chin. I'm like, I look and think, are you mad? Do you think a judge is going to actually reward you with that? But then I do see judges putting up dogs that have got a centimetre of bloody hair on the chin. I mean, it's like ridiculous because if I can see it from the ringside, what the hell is the judge doing putting those dogs up? And then again, I look and think, standards are mostly in continental. Some of the smaller breeds, we don't see the feet on. But, if you would never reward a Doberman with feet that turned in, and yet repeatedly I see winning standards that feet turn in, and I think they're not even covered up like an Afghan. You can see the feet. We've got a rosette, and then we've got the foot, and just they're an easy breed. They've got normal conformation. They should. And the other thing, a thing that I absolutely hate is that you want them to be tall and short, but you don't want them to look like a bar stool. So it's ridiculous to breed something that looks like a wonderful artist like our dear friend Maud Nilsson has drawn, because she's taken something and making it into a fairy tale, an abstract. Don't try and breed a standard poodle that looks like an abstract. They're not an abstract. They should be a square. So, and the only way that you actually breed something that is that shape, where they're ultra short backed and very long legged, is to straighten the shoulders, straighten the upper arm to get that extra height. And then you've got a dog that can't move. So it's a normally constructed animal actually, apart from the glamour, the animal is just a basic animal. It's got a basic balanced head, a balanced body, a level top line, a long proud neck. It's not difficult. And particularly when they're in a continental, it's not difficult at all to see the dog.
Yeah, and I asked you before, and you mentioned a few of the things, but if you would have to say one or two things, what do you feel at the moment is really the biggest problem of the breed?
Well, I think movement, really. We've got a lot of restricted movement. They should, Elizabeth, the wonderful, famous, gorgeous Elizabeth Drake of Harbovie fame. She's a phenomenal woman and a great friend of mine. She bred Charlie, who revolutionized the breed. Harbovie's heaven can wait. But she said to me when I first got into the breed, she said, "Michael, a poodle should dance. I can't explain it, but when you see it, you will know it." Yeah. And this freedom of a ballerina that's got this movement and an easy gait, and you've got to also remember that they derive from a sporting dog. So no sporting dog should have this restricted movement. They should have reach and drive without being, like insane. And of course, finally, carriage is. I mean, we have carriage all over the world. We have carriage, but sometimes I think that breeders can overlook everything for carriage, and then if you're not careful, you can get ewe-necks, and So the whole thing is, it's possible to breed a beautiful front assembly and have lovely carriage, and of course, carriage on a loose lead is particularly pleasing.
Is the size problem in the breed?
No, I don't think so, really. I mean, Scandinavia's, they've had a smaller standard poodle really than the rest of the world. But I do think that we've gotten over being too critical of perhaps a dog that's a little larger than the ideal, because there's more to size. It's like it's easy to measure a great dog out if it's a centimetre or so oversized. Yeah. I mean, we don't have that issue in England anyway, because we don't have an upper limit. I mean, and I don't want a great big donkey of a dog. I just think that in the same way that some judges will throw out a wonderful dog because it's got a missing premolar, and they'll put up a dog with flat feet or poor movement, or and I think to myself, if you reach a point where you are picking between two dogs that are so phenomenal that it gets right down to a missing premolar or a centimetre difference in height, then you're very lucky, to be honest with you. So, and I think fault judging is a terrible affliction of poor judges. We need to look at the beauty, not
absolutely.
and there's that saying, isn't there? I would sooner have a diamond with a flaw than a perfect piece of glass. So, and I'm very much of that opinion.
Yeah. Tell me, Michael, how important is the grooming for poodles, and how difficult it is to keep poodles in the show condition? And in the same way, while you were talking about people leaving this centimeter on of the coat on the chins or underjaws, there has been a comment from Maria Luisa Doppelreiter, who is a well-known judge from Austria, and I want you also, if you could comment on that. She says, but then what would you do in a country where it is not allowed to shave the muzzle, as the AR people say it is torture? We have this problem in Austria for all the breeds. I suppose you know about the story in Austria where they have get this new rule that dogs cannot be shaved, and because of the whiskers and I don't know what. So I don't know how that's going to look like in the future. But tell me, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, obviously right. I'll answer the first part of the question, Auntie, about the coat and how difficult it was to keep. Listen, you cannot let these dogs get matted up, number one, because each time they get matted up and you demat them, you damage the coat. And whilst you can get away with that once, if you're very careful, or twice, you should never allow it to happen, because every time it happens, you damage more and more coat. So it's crucial that you bath and blow dry them when they need doing. You need to check them every day, and when the coat's beginning to feel like it's just pushing together and not got the fluid movement that you need, then you need to bath them. That said, as they get older and the coat texture changes, they will last longer. Sometimes, again, we bath them twice a week. Ideally, we bath them once a week. By putting the head and down the neck in bands, then there is no way of protecting the neck hair without just banding them up, and it's fantastic. Sometimes you need to check the hair, the bands on the head, but ordinarily the bands all the way down the back of the head and down the neck don't need changing until the next time they're back. The type of coat they have, we can exercise the hell out of them in muddy, vile, wet conditions like this. Bring them back. We can just and sometimes we don't even rinse them off, but sometimes we just rinse them off, particularly if it's a white, and then blast them, because it's quite short on the legs and of course nothing on the feet. It's not like an American Cocker, which the whole dog gets drenched. It's really easy to blast them dry. You don't need to spend hours blow drying the legs. It's an easy job to do, and of course they are sporting, and so it's essential that they have that freedom. This whole concept of a great moving dog that's a great show dog absolutely comes from conditioning the mind, the coat, and the body. You cannot do that by restricting them and not letting them be a free spirit. So
can I stop you? Yeah. Can I stop you just for 1 second? Because you said it's quite easy to keep them in the show condition. Why don't so many poodle people use these false hair pieces? I don't know however you call them, to build up the top knots.
Right. Well, let me.
And what do you think about it?
Right. I don't think there's any excuse for any exhibitors who show dogs in a normal manner around the world to need switches, right? Switches, the false hair pieces.
Yeah.
Switches. I do not. Yeah. I believe that if you've got a good coat and you're only going to 20, 25, 30 shows a year, that's easy to keep. If you're prepared to work hard and put the effort in, it's easy to keep the coat, and you do not. It's ridiculous. You do not need the extra work of putting in switches. And then, of course, if you use switches, you've got to take them out and wash them. You don't have to just wash the dog. You have to wash some bloody switches. Now, if you're in the state, and then, of course, the Americans are renowned for using switches. There's nothing more ridiculous in the world than putting, you go to Poodle Club of America and the 6 to 9 puppy bitches or the 9 to 12 puppy dogs have got bloody switches in. Well, they've got no air. You can't possibly, there's no possibility. They look ridiculous. They look like you're taking a cockatoo into the bloody ring. It's just a stupid thing. That said, the specials, which have got a grueling schedule and are shown for perhaps 100 shows a year, those dogs, you've got to bath them every time you finish showing them. Yeah. So if you've only got a 3-day weekend, they've had 3 baths, 3 blow dries, that will take its toll on the coat. And so consequently, I would be forgiving of dogs, handlers and dogs in those circumstances needing to use switches. However, I do not believe it's necessary for anybody who lives in our part of the world. That's all of Europe. There's no excuse.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back now to Maria Luisa's comment about the new thing in Austria.
Well, listen, for a start off, I mean, it's a tragedy. And one of my little things as well, this is a controversial little point, is that I do believe that like the Kennel Club, the FCI, maybe the AKC, we should be using probably an expensive, brilliant PR firm that should be, like working on this stuff, because we're relying to a degree on enthusiasts within our sports to try and put up a defence, when in actual fact, I think we've got professionals attacking us. So we need heavy hitting professionals to protect us. And I think that maybe AKC, FCI and our Kennel Club could work together perhaps and share the cost of a PR company that could really go to town, because there's so many good things about what we do. And dispelling the idea, I'm not being funny. There's somebody somewhere in Austria very wrong, very out of touch to think that shaving a dog's face is somehow detrimental.
Torture.
I'm not being funny.
They call it torture.
Well, it's like, is it torture if should every man have a beard, or for that matter, should 1 or 2 women have beards? The point is, it's a ridiculous statement. Shaving, we're dog lovers. We do not torture our dogs. I could not have a breed that I tortured. I'm first and foremost a dog lover, and so to suggest that we do something that's detrimental to our dogs. Now, here's the thing: faced with those constraints, all you can do is enhance the shape of a poodle's head. You might have to leave it longer than ideal, but my point with the beards was you've not got a shaved face with a 1 centimetre beard. If you've got 1 centimetre all over the dog, then I think it's not perfect. But as a judge or as a breeder, I think I can see a beautiful face in a dog that's overgrown, that's ready and needs shaving. I mean, but I do believe that we need to take our destiny in our hands, and we need to fight back, because we've got powerful lobbies. And interestingly, these lobbies that are against us, they are not just against the show people. They're against anybody who owns a pet. They do want an old lady to have a cat that she strokes on her knee at night because she lost her husband and it's her only form of comfort. It's, or when I think about what dogs give us and what we give to dogs, of course there's going to be terrible stories. There's terrible stories about children who are abused, so there's going to be, if we abuse our children in rare circumstances, there's going to be rare circumstances where animals are abused. The fact of the matter remains that we are dog lovers, and if we don't fight back, there will be no dogs. There will be no dogs, no cats, no sheep, no cows. We will just live in this bland existence. I mean, it'll be after I've gone, thank God. But that if these people, these lunatics, that there was something that was said about better dead than enslaved. I mean, what sort of talk is there when people, when you see the pleasure that animals get from humans and what humans get from animals, and that's the norm. That is the norm. And we need to fight that, because these people have got the show people in their target, but once they've got us, they will go after the pet people.
Yeah, but this is what I said many times, because that's something that has been I speak quite often about that in my interviews with people, and I think AKC had quite a good campaign about that, because this whole story of don't buy, adopt. When they give these dogs to be adopted, dogs from the shelters, they ask the owners to sterilize them or to castrate them. It means that if people would not be buying dogs from the breeders, and they would be just rescuing dogs from the shelters, in 10 years or 15 years, there are no more dogs. Any dogs, not just purebred dogs. There are no dogs, and that's like, I think that's what many people don't see, but it is what it is. Okay, my last question about your two breeds. If somebody would give you the opportunity to change something in the Kennel Club standards of your two breeds, American Cockers and Standard Poodles, would you change something?
Well, I think it would be fascinating. I mean, I thought this for a long time. And it's not practical. But,
Okay.
I wondered, these coated breeds, I sometimes wondered if you had to get a final CC before they became a champion, if you had to shave them off and then take them, the presented breeds.
To see how they really look like.
See how they look with no hair. And I mean, I have to say that, one of the things I'm really proud of is, because obviously we don't keep our retired show dogs in coat. One of the things I'm really proud of is, when we do cut them down, and we do put them into quite a short, smart trim, that they still look great, So, and I actually, funny enough, I've won CCs with American Cockers that have been in a pet trim, which Ambrose won under very famous cocker man from the States, Terry Stacey, very famous. And we caused a little bit of a sensation with one of our standard poodle bitches, Killer Heels at Crofts. She won a huge postgraduate class, and she was the ringside favourite in the challenge. Unfortunately, she didn't prevail, but and it was a stylized pet trim. She was in the T trim, a Swedish T trim, a trim that I love. But I think we should be prepared to show, particularly standard poodles, particularly poodles. I think we should be prepared to show them in a shorter, smart trim, and our judges reward us with good animals that look good in that trim. So that would be good.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting point. Okay, we spoke for almost 2 hours now, Mike, about dogs and your breeds, and I can tell you that there have been hundreds of questions coming in the comments, and as I promised to all the people, first of all, we are talking for 2 hours and 50 minutes, and it's amazing that still over 400 people are watching it live. And believe it or not, for the moment we have 467 comments. So as I promised, at the end we are going to answer to their questions. I have now a few quick questions which are going to be probably difficult for you, but let's see how you will deal with that. Which show you have judged you consider for the moment to be the highlight of your judging career?
I think, well, interestingly, I mean, I've judged Crufts a couple of times. I'm a bit out of favour at the moment, so I think the Crufts appointments might have dried up for a wee while. But I'm a bit.
Talking about craft, you judge breeds. You never judge the grouper.
Yeah, no. but it is what it is, and I'm quite happy.
Well, you're young.
And also, the
there
thing
is still time.
Comes around, so I'm, what's in fashion one week is out of fashion next. So I'm just hoping I come back in fashion. You never know. But I enjoyed Crufts. It was, I think, really, I judged Spinona's at Crufts the year after my darling Linda Collins died, and she was my sister. She wasn't my sister, but she was my sister, and I adored her. She will forever be in my heart. And she died of cancer when she was far too young. And of course it was her breed. She loved the breed, and it would have been fun afterwards, slating me and slagging me off for my dreadful judging. But it was a highlight in a way because it was very emotional. When I was I was conscious of the fact that literally, a few months before we'd lost Linda. So I think that's possibly my highlight, really. And of course, I mean, when you judge your first best in show in England, and our shows are huge. I put up the flat coat, the Kentuckian, which at that point I'd only ever judged 2 groups of the best in show, and I'd only ever had 1 winner, and that was the bloody Kentuckian. I couldn't believe it. And it's funny because that best in show lineup, he won the last group of the last day, and I turned round to the woman I was chatting to before I got up to judge best in show, and I said, oh, I can't put the black coat together because I've already given him 2 groups. People will just think that I can't judge any other dog but this dog. Anyway, I judged the best in show lineup, and he was the last one. And as I was going over him, I thought, I can't rob you. He was such a special dog, and he was best in show Crufts. He was a tremendous dog. He retired that day with breed record, so I was very happy with a nice little best in show. So
wonderful. What would be your favorite British show?
Standard Poodles.
No. Your favorite British show. In the UK.
Like a breed club show.
No, British. In the UK.
My favourite British show, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think. Listen, it goes without saying that I love Crufts because we meet up with all our friends from around the world. It's a special show. It's been particularly special for me. We had two wins and 2 reserve wins. We've been blessed. But funnily enough, Birmingham City. I love that show. It's a great showground, and there's a hotel on the grounds of this agricultural, this huge agricultural. So you can run your dogs. There's loads of room, and you can crawl out of bed, having had a good night and plenty to drink, and you can and you walk from this nice hotel. It's not dramatic, but it's a comfortable. You get a decent, good breakfast, and you walk across to this lovely show, and the committee and the secretary and everybody are all lovely. So I think, apart across the side, I think the Birmingham City is my favorite show.
Okay, what would be your all-time favorite American Cocker and Standard Poodle not bred or owned by you?
Oh, well, American Cocker is really easy, and that is West Glen's Blackgammon. Tracy Lynn Carroll and Blackgammon were an extraordinary pairing. I was at Westminster when the English Springer, oh my God, Sally Lynn's Condor won the group and went best in show, and it was an extraordinary fight for the group between Webster, his pet name was, and Concord. They were both extraordinary dogs, and I think that had the Springer not been there, then I think certainly Webster would probably have gone best in show. He was incredible, just absolutely incredible. And I was fortunate years later to get as a gift from the wonderful Honami Ito from Japan. I judged the American Cockers, and I judged the babies. And of course, you're not allowed to you put the babies up for best queen and best king. But a baby had come into the ring that was like 5 months old, and I was just transfixed by her. She was so beautiful. And afterwards, I found Toshi and said to Toshi, "I need to find this woman. I need to find this dog. This." But anyway, when I found her, she said, I said to her, and she couldn't speak much English, and I said, "I need either a repeat breeding or daughter. I must." And she gave me the bitch there and then on the spot. She gave it to me. And of course, that was Nami. She was best in show first time out at Birmingham National, and she was third best in show at the World Show in Stockholm. She was a hell of a bitch. And she was quite closely bred to Blackgammon. I was blessed to get her. So another bit of luck.
Yeah. And the favorite standard.
And in standards, we actually, funny enough, we were talking about this because of an interview that I did. And it was a dog that I saw the videos, but for me, I think that, I love the bitch, the black bitch that won Westminster last year, Siva. Tom pointed her out to me actually when we were watching standards. And Tom said, "Oh, I really like that bitch that Crystal's showing." And it was the first year she'd been out as a special, and she was way down the line. She did win. She looked fantastic. We tried to, but we went. I was like, "Oh God, Tom, you're right. She's fabulous." We went rushing off to find the handlers and tried to buy her. We couldn't buy her. Begged her to breed to one of our dogs, which you never know. Watch this space; it might happen yet. But
okay.
I would have said Siva, but because in my day, because of my legs, because of I love a big, moving, powerful dog. I would say Gordon. The dog that Carlos
had.
It was his pride and joy, bless him. And I think Gordon was a stallion, a magnificent animal. He wasn't without faults. It's a bit like that, which I said before, a diamond with a flaw. The dog was magnificent, and he would have been such a great dog to show.
Yeah. This will be almost impossible to answer, but I will give it a try. The best dog you ever bred?
I think Arabella, Donnie, Maverick Sabre. Those three. Funnily enough, I've had 2 top dog all breeds with American Cockers in Douglas Fashion, and Arabella's son, and Dexter, Pistols at Dawn. But for me, I think Arabella was number 2 all breed. She was a beautiful, beautiful thing. She was like, I wouldn't have changed very much on her at all. Donnie, because he was this big, goofy, idiot dog that just flew around the ring. He was just a joy to show. He was the last dog I was allowed to show, and people thought I did a good job before Jason took them all away from me. And then, of course, the whole world loved Ricky, including me. We got a dog that, it's funny because often you have dogs that are controversial because some people love them, some people hate them. But I think all 2 people loved Ricky, and I think Jason's performance with the dog when he went best in show at Crufts was just extraordinary. So I was brimming over with pride.
Okay. The favorite win with your own dogs?
I think really and truly that Ricky winning Crufts, because you've got to remember that I'd had 2 reserve best in shows, and I was like, when Ricky won the group and went in for best in show, it wasn't so much that it was almost like a relief. I thought, thank God, because we kept getting so, a bit like being the bridesmaid and never the bride, and I really wanted to be the bride. So I think that was the moment, really.
Yeah.
Best in show.
One breed you never had at home and you would like to have?
Lagotto.
Lagotto, because I watched one interview that Dog World TV made with you some years ago, and you said Braco. But
oh yeah, well actually, funny enough, because when you catch people off guard, you haven't pre-warned me about any of these bloody questions.
Yes,
No,
I like
but
it that way.
say, if I was starting off as a youngster in the Gundog group, I think Bracco's would be. I mean, they're such a fun dog. That big elastic movement really appeals to me. I love that sportiness of them. So yeah, I think they're a gorgeous breed.
These two. Okay. Dog person not alive anymore that you miss the most.
God, there's absolutely so many. Leslie Page, Clive Davis, Michael Allen in America. It's a bad question really, because let me tell you, I was blessed when I was a kid by having so many people who were so good to me. They shared their knowledge. They were warm. They were like my uncles, my aunties, my grandmas. There was just so many of them. Marion Spavin, how could I not say Marion Spavin? But sadly, I know that I'm leaving lots of people out. I've been blessed, and some of those people who've left now, they're irreplaceable. They're characters.
Absolutely.
There's big characters who are fantastic.
Yeah. Tell me one breeder, or you can say one or two breeder in the UK and one out of the UK of any breed that always impress you with the quality of his dogs.
Tan. To take a breed like St. Bernard's and to sing. I mean, he has dogs in partnership with people, so I won't say single-handedly, but I mean, he is the driving force. And for Tan to create this extraordinary dynasty of St. Bernards that are so sound, beautiful type, he's gone from a breed that was overlooked. I mean, I know way back, Bossy Boots went Leicestershire across, but the point was the breed was overlooked in the group because they were often unsound, giant breed that was often unsound. His presentation, the soundness, the type, his handling, I mean, he's extraordinary. I take my hats off to him, because I think to do that with the giant breed has been extraordinary.
Yeah, and somebody outside of the UK?
These questions are bloody awful. Actually,
you should know that I don't do easy questions.
And again, it's quite close to you, but I think Mickey with the Affenpinches is. I mean, there's a lot, and again, there's lots I could mention. But when I think about somebody taking a breed it's a breed that I'm extremely fond of, Affenpinches. But to take a breed that's like a scruffy little dog and to create one after another, really competitive dogs in a tough group. I mean, that FCI group is a group. So I think that I would say Mickey was hats off to her for doing a great job.
I'm sure she will be very happy to hear that. Let me ask you another thing. If you would finally win Best in Show at Crafts yourself showing, under which UK judge you would like to win it?
Well, the problem is the two judges that I probably would like to win under, because I think they're exceptional judges, are two people who've already judged, so it's immaterial, and I'm not going to say who they are.
Okay. Okay, and there is somebody that has not judged and that you would be extremely privileged to win under, or not?
Well done. Let me get a list of the next 5 years Best in Show judges, and then I'll give you all.
Okay. Then you will know the real answer. Okay, I let you pass with that. Tell me, if you would have, let's say, 3 litters of any breed at home, and you would have problems to choose the best puppy out of these 3 litters, which judges from the UK or outside of UK you would ask to help you to choose your puppies?
Well, I think I think Derek Smith is somebody who I think has, I mean, particularly when it comes to poodles, Derek Smith's considered to be a poodle, like like a poodle person, except he has never actually owned poodles. Yeah. But his association with some of the great poodle people of the past was so close that he became like an honorary poodle person. And I think the thing with Derek is that when we go to a show, I'm always keen for Derek to see a new puppy. And if he does, the interesting thing about him is that you have to have a strong backbone to show Derek a new youngster, because if he doesn't like it, he doesn't spare you. But but equally, if he does like it, then he will lavish praise upon it. But be assured, there's been one or two that I've thought, look at this is going to, and he's like just been so derogatory that I've walked off in tears. Well, actually, I haven't. I've sashayed away.
Yeah. Okay, and somebody from somebody outside of the UK.
God, I mean, these are really, really difficult.
Well,
I guess. Listen, I think I know he's a legend, and it might be a little bit of a cop out, but Hassa, again, if he judged in England lots of times, and if he was, whether he was judging a breed or that, that it was nothing to do with me. If I had something exciting, I would desperately want him to see it and desperately want him to like it, because his opinion meant such a lot to me. So I think it would be Hassa.
Okay. If you would need to thank 5 people, dead or alive, who helped you to become what you are today in the dog world, who would you thank?
Well, first, Tom, my husband, who makes me a better person.
That's not easy.
No, it's not easy. But, and actually, as far as the dogs are concerned, he's brought with him a level of presentation that has made all of us up our game. We were good before, but with Tom getting involved, he's such a natural talent that it's made us try harder. So, I mean, and he's my husband, and that goes without saying the rest. Jason, obviously, I mean, this success that we've had is, Jason, he's my ex-partner. We're still friends. He's my business partner now. He is extraordinary handler. I mean, there's 1 or 2 handlers around the world who compare with Jason, but there's really not anybody. And so we've got the groomer and we've got the handler. So there's 2. And then as far as the crumb, I mean, I'm a bitch about her. I tell her all the time she's got a big fat arse, and but she's been loyal beyond belief from being a child, when she was too frightened to ask me for an American Cocker, and her parents' friends, Peter, came and asked me if there was a little girl who was desperate for an American Cocker. So and she's like an old woman now. But anyway, she's been fantastic. And then who could not mention Slocum, Sandra Stone? I call her Slocum. There's a character on the TV from an old sitcom, a wonderful old character that had the English will know what I'm talking about. She continually talked about her pussy, and and so Slocum, who has brought us such joy, and she's been very important because she's, when her husband John was alive, her and John had dogs. They helped us with socialize youngsters. They took Ricky's mother when we were struggling to make her react well at the shows. They took her around the open shows, and they made her into a show dog. That so Slocum's been vital. for all of that time. So yeah, we've been really truly blessed by, and I've said, and also, Gavin, you know, we didn't really finish on the best terms. However, when he was hard working, he was enthusiastic, he was a talent, and he brought with him something good that contributed to Afterglow. So I've always said I can't bear it when people believe that they are, it's me, because I'm all about we and us, and whilst Afterglow's been a great success, it's been a success because I've been blessed by the people who helped me along the way. So
yeah, that's very nice of you to say. Best dog you have ever judged?
I would say the Kentuckian, really. I think, the dog was still phenomenal at 10 years old. He was just an incredible dog. And, it's funny, really, because I judged my first group and I had a touch of opposition before I went in. I had, people say, oh, that dog's this, that, and the other. And when I judged him, I thought, no, I like this. I don't care what anybody says, I like this the best. Anyway, he won. And then the following year, I judged my second group, and again, huge show, probably 2,000 gun dogs entered. And as the best breed for winners were coming in, I was thinking, oh, I'm not keen, not keen, not keen. All these dogs kept running past me, and then the Kentuckian went past, and then the rest, and then all of a sudden I had no dogs left. And I looked and thought, and they'd only ran into the ring, and I actually thought to myself, I'm going to have to give that. I've only judged 2 groups in my bloody life, and I'm going to have to give that dog another group. And then, so you can imagine how I felt when I did my first best in show.
Yeah.
And then I
and there he was again.
You're haunting me. But anyway, he was retired that day, so thank God I didn't have to judge him again. So
him. If you were offered to judge 3 national specialties in the USA in the breeds of your choice, what would they be?
They would be toy poodles, miniature poodles, and standard poodles.
Oh, yeah. So poodles are really your heart breed. Definitely.
Maybe I'd switch miniatures for Afghans. I'd love to judge the Afghans.
Okay. Is there a young person that you recently met that you think could have a great future in dogs?
There's a lot of youngsters who I think have the potential to be something special in the ring. I'm not sure whether I want to single one out particularly, but we have got. Liz Donnell's daughter. She's already. She's a great handler. She's already made a name for herself. And again, I think it's tough for her because when you've got a famous mother, people probably think that you win because of that, of the influence of Liz. I think she's had a battle to overcome that, and I think she does a good job. I think she takes more stick than a kid of her age should take, and so I admire her enormously. I think she's a great talent.
Yeah. What do you hate the most about yourself?
God. Let me tell you, Auntie, I've never been blessed with particularly high self-esteem. So the list of what I don't like about myself is so long that I'm not going to bore you.
I let you pass with that. Okay. If for some reason you would stop to breed standard poodles and American cockers, and you decide one day you want to give them all away to pet homes or sell them or whatever, and then after 5 years you decide you want to have them again, to which kennel you would go to buy your new puppy American cocker and a standard poodle?
They're knocking on a bit now, but there's a breeder in Colombia of American cockers that I think get the breed really well. They have buffs and blacks and party colours. Their prefix just slipped my mind for a second. They'll know who they are, but and they come up to Uber and they'll show.
Yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah, for life, they've got a nice prefix that reminds me of another prefix. I wish I could. Lovely, very, very nice people, and they get the breed completely. So I think possibly I'd go and have a dig around and see what they.
Okay. And about standard poodles?
And in standard poodles, I think, well, it's a really, really difficult question, that, because, as I say, what I'm tempted to say is that I'm going to say it like this. If in 5 years I wanted to come back with standard poodles, I would visit people who I'd given or sold dogs to, and I would select something from one of those.
Okay. Okay, that's a smart answer.
That's a cop out. Okay, but that's what I would do.
Okay, you can. I have only two more these quick questions, so you can relax soon. Are you a bad loser?
No, you see, if I think genuinely, if I think somebody's beaten me fair and square, I can live with that. If I think I've been screwed because somebody doesn't like me, and I am a little bit like Marmite, Auntie. I like to think I'm a really honest person, and so I don't pretend to like people that I don't like. So if I like somebody, it's obvious, but it's not. I hate all this people smiling and then walking away and saying something. But the point I'm trying to make is that genuinely, if I get beaten fair and square, even if I don't agree with the judge, but I think it's fair, I think there's been a reason inside their head that they can demonstrate. Not that I would ever question them. If I believe that, then I can lose gracefully. If I think somebody has put us down because of me, which does happen, and sometimes it will. Jason and Tom have got to pay a penalty for me being me. I could go berserk. I mean, I could be the worst loser in the world, because the frustration of knowing when somebody has screwed you is not good.
Yeah. Last question. If you show one of your best dogs to somebody and you ask him, what do you think? And he answers nice, what do you say?
Well, I know why you've asked me that question, Auntie. And that is because I think nice is the worst bloody word in the world. And I did an interview for one of the big American magazines that was like pages and pages long. But the last question was, how would you like to be remembered? And my answer was, I didn't care so long as nobody ever said I was nice.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good.
To love me or hate me, but nice is not good.
Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah, it's something similar to the reserve CC, I think. Okay, we have few more questions. My God, we have been talking 2 hours and 45 minutes, and there are still 400 people watching it live, and there are 543 comments. You will have to check on all of them. Well, I mean, I have few questions left, and I think it would not be fair that we don't answer to them. Let's see how we will go with that. Tell me a little bit about your breeding strategy. When you breed dogs, how do you decide who are going to be the parents of your next litter? How important are the pedigrees for you? Do you have different strategies in different breeds? Do you use a lot of line breeding, inbreeding, outcrossing? How do you work?
I tried to do a combination of the physical dogs and the pedigree, and the physical dogs in the pedigree and line breeding. Like, it's really advantageous. I think some modern newer breeders perhaps don't look at the past. you know, you've got to be aware of the great work that people have done before you to know where you've come from and where you're going to go in the future. I think, and so I think that anybody who doesn't look back of where these dogs that they're showing and maybe winning with. So I think that's important, and I think it's fantastic if you've been in a breed long enough to be able to visualize dogs to the pedigree. So immediately you're thinking, well, oh, I'm going to do that breed, and then you think, well, no, because the mother of that one had a bad tail, and that, you know, that produced a lot of bad tails, and blah blah blah. So immediately you're sort of filtering. It's a bit like you know, when it comes to breeding, I think my brain is a little bit like a computer. I do try to weigh up the chances of getting what I'm hoping to achieve, and I never pay attention to people, whether I like somebody or don't like them, but whether a dog is either worthy or not worthy of being included in a breeding program. I mean, if I can get the opportunity to use a dog of somebody I don't like, then maybe it's difficult. But if I can get it, then I wouldn't hesitate. Equally, I wouldn't use my best friend's dog because they currently had the top standard poodle, and they'd be insulted if I didn't use it. I wouldn't. You know, if they're a good friend, they would understand that I might love them and appreciate the fact that they've won, but not want to use their dog. The point I'm trying to make is that I think that with some breeds, I think that you can be more adventurous, going a little bit close. Other breeds, I think you've got to be a little bit more careful about outcrossing. I think that, like with the American Cockers, in the beginning, we bred the party colours, needed their temperaments improving. A lot of them had pink third eyelids, which was ugly. A lot of them had small teeth. We bred to blacks, our good blacks, and okay, the first generation you only got blacks or I mean, people were all crazy. Not all crazy. They weren't as bad as the English Cocker. But the point is, the breeders from the past, if they wanted to improve a head, they found a good head. They didn't care what colour it was. They bred to that dog, and in that way, we, you know, first generation just blacks, but then of course those blacks bred to another party colour produced half party colours, beautifully marked party colours, incidentally, and half blacks. Now, those party colours that were the second generation down from a black bred black or solid bred solid, we would instantly improve, you know, the character. There were stronger characters, more stable, because the party colours can be a little bit they want you and nobody else. You know, they love you and they don't really want anybody else coming around. But anyway, so you know, different breeds, I think you have to approach in a different way. But certainly, you must have an image in your head of these animals. And you know, some great dogs are bad producers. Some ugly dogs are great producers. You've got to bear that in mind too. You know, somebody does a breeding and you think, Christ, where's that come from? But generally speaking, the quality breeds true. Beauty breeds beauty, you know, and I think there's very few breeds that you know, I sometimes look at somebody with an ugly dog, an ugly poodle, and they'll come and, you know, it's got a sweet temperament, it's health tested. They'll say, we'd like to use your dog because we'd like to have something to show. And I say to them, look, you can use the dog, fine. Let's have the litter and see what they're like. But if you want me to help, if I tell you that we've not managed to improve things so dramatically that there's a show puppy, you know, I would tell you that, and you might be better off starting again. You know, and I think that's fair advice, really. Sometimes you've got to look and be sensible.
Yeah, absolutely. When and how do you choose the best puppy of the litter?
When we've got them on the lead, you know, a clever handler can kind of, you know, manipulate a puppy a little bit into a beautiful shape. I like to plonk puppies on the table so that, you know, without trying to like do a stack, I like to plonk the puppies on the table and just see what they're like. But the most important thing, and of course, these animals are show dogs, so no matter how beautiful they are on the table, if you put them on the floor and they're miserable, they've got no carriage, you know, and that counts for. I mean, it's supreme in poodles, and I guess so in American Cockers as well. But the reality is that it's important for any breed, really, to degrees. They've got to be sound. I want to see them open up. I want to see them tidy up and down, you know, and I want them to see them with that personality and all of those things you can't see until you first get them on the lead. So I guess we probably put them on the lead about 8 or 9 weeks.
Okay. You mentioned it a few times already that Afterglow is very much a teamwork. How does a normal day at home look like?
Well, it's very different now than it was a few years ago. Well, last year, before this dreadful disease, you know, our boarding business, which was our main business, is zero. You know, nobody's allowed to stay in a hotel. They're not allowed to stay in rent a cottage. Not allowed to go and visit a friend. So consequently, we have literally, we've gone from having a really busy boarding kennel and boarding cattery to having no business. So Tom has increased, you know, his pet grooming, and he's much sought after. He's a beautiful groomer, and the Crumb helps him when he's really busy. And occasionally I get dragged in, but I'll finish something. Occasionally I finish something off, and I'm like, "Look at this," and he says, "Oh, yeah, yes, it looks lovely," and then he takes it off me, and then takes more air off and does this to make me feel thoroughly bad. But of course, Jason, he does a lot. I mean, we all work with the dogs. We all run them and feed them, and we take care of coats, our show dogs, and clip puppies and bath puppies and train puppies. So it's all. And Jason takes most of the responsibility for the paperwork and what have you. I guess my thing is making sure that you know, that we've got everything. That you know, I'm Svengali, I think, you know, a little bit.
Okay.
I try not to be too controlling, but it's difficult.
Okay. Do you prefer showing or judging?
Showing.
I read this interview with you that Simon Parsons did many years ago, and you said that you feel or you think that people should judge only the breeds they would like to own, and you think people should not judge the breeds they have not passion about. Tell me about it.
Well, I think it's an insult to judge a breed that you don't like. I mean, I think it's a terrible. You know, we had we had a selection process to help judges in the UK a few years ago, like a judges development program, where we were taken for and did a full day on. You know, it was across all of the breeds, but I started off with the gun dogs, obviously, and I did nearly all of the gun dogs, and I did well in all of those exams and passed what, you know. But I never did the Munsterlanders, and I never did the Brittany's and the Nova Scotia Tollers. And the people who were organising that said, "It's crazy, mate. You know, you've just got these left." And I said, "Yeah, but I don't want to judge them because they're not breeds I'm particularly fond of." So, and I honestly believe that it's, you know, like some of the old gun dog group judges from way back when American Cockers first came over, and there was a touch of hostility from some of them. I mean, Peggy Grayson, bless her, she was an amazing woman. She's only recently died, I believe. But Peggy Grayson was like this incredible old gun dog woman. I think she was a horsey woman. She came from a horsey background. She was a bugger, you know, she judged American Cockers. She used to bloody complain about being in the gun dog group all the time. And I had 1 or 2 fights. I mean, she was a real dear woman. I liked her, but she was a woman with strong opinions. And I used to get into such bloody fights with her, you know, because she'd be like, I said, "Well, why do you judge them? Why do you judge them if you don't like them?" I do like them. They shouldn't be in the gun dog group. So I guess there was the fact she did say she liked them. She just disagreed with them.
Okay. Okay, you said a few times during the interview that you are not a good politician. You cannot be very diplomatic. You say exactly what you think and how you feel, and when something bothers you, you say it loud, even if that is maybe not good for you. I think one of the first times when people could see that part of you was when you started to fight against this kennel club's code testing thing that has been a huge thing in the UK. Tell me a little bit about that. Are you sorry now that you have fight against it, or you are proud of it, or how do you look at it now after so many years?
No, I'm completely proud, because the problem was, I mean, I was in a meeting at the Kennel Club with the then chairman, Ronnie Irvin, who is a friend of mine, and we've locked horns on several occasions. You know, he's had strong opinions about things. I've had strong alternative opinions. And the point was that you know, because of course we would be at a dog show, and they would come and test the poodles. They would come and test the Westies. They would test the Old English Sheepdog, and it went round and round and round in circles. It was insanity. And you know, some of them said, "Oh, we're trying to cheat." Well, why? We weren't trying to cheat. We were just wanting to put a little bit of an innocuous substance into the coat of a poodle that women have used on their hair for, you know, decades.
Yeah.
And they were trying to say that it was cheating. You know, we were trying to change the texture of the hair. Well, the only judge who judged a poodle and couldn't tell the difference between coat texture and hairspray is a bloody dreadful judge. A dreadful judge, because if you try to take a soft, thin coat and try to thicken it with spray, it just clumps and goes. It's just a train wreck. So consequently, number one, the philosophy behind it was rubbish for a start, and the point was it was unfair. And what I said was, listen, if you come to, and there was a big meeting at the Kennel Club, and I got into a big fight, and I said, if you continue to coat test in, you know, and victimize breeds, particularly my breed, there's going to be a response. You either test everything or test nothing. And that was maybe in the October, November, December, something like that, the meeting. And then the following crofts, miniatures were tested, Westies were tested. There were people crying. The frog. Nowadays, there would be criminal action against the people who grabbed exhibitors by the arm and frog marched them to the office to have some vet rip the hair out of your dog. And whilst it didn't affect me personally, it was miniatures that were done. You know, we were showing standards of toys. I was enraged that they would do that. And so it turned into a big deal. I put forward a proposal that went to the AGM. And I'll be honest with you, it was straightforward. We had the science to support the facts that the tests could not ever be sound, because the contamination could never make them sound. And it said in what they were saying was that we couldn't use anything that changed the texture of the coat. Well, of course, if you use shampoo on a coat, you change the texture. If you use conditioner on a coat, you change the texture. So what did they want us to do? Did they want us to take these dogs like out of a pond, or, you know, out of a bloody dike and shake them down and take them into the ring? It was ridiculous. And consequently, they believe, some of these people who are against this believe that if we stopped coat testing, that there was going to be Old English going into the ring with clouds of talcum powder coming out of them, and it never happened. You know, there was a period of calm where the Kennel Club went off and reviewed it, and I'm so delighted that sense prevailed, because our dogs, along with the rest of the world, have presented beautifully on the whole. They're all clean, they're all nice for the judges to go over. I think the presentation is respectful of the dog and respectful of the judge. I don't think judges are touching dogs and getting covered in coloured chalks or whatever. So I think their fears were unfounded. And now we go to a dog show, and instead of being literally treated like criminals, and there were instances where officials were going into people's show bags and rummaging through show bags. It was a terrible period, and I'm relieved that it's gone. And of course, it's had a fantastic impact on everybody who shows dogs in the UK, because you know, everybody's benefited from it. And you know, I had help. I had some fantastic help. You know, I even managed, because my darling friend Karen Cockfield is a very clever woman, and through her we managed to get for free the forensic scientist who headed Princess Di's death in Paris and the Omar bombings. You know, we had like the top man.
Amazing,
You know, he did it for free. You know, he was kind of intrigued by the whole thing. He kind of captured his imagination, and it was difficult, because obviously it attracted some negative attention for me. But you know, I think overall everybody's benefited from it, including the time who thought it was bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about some of these things, I want to ask you, how did you react at first when you saw this BBC documentary Pedigree Dogs Exposed? And do you think that the Kennel Club and the officials have reacted well after this has been released?
Well, the problem was the programme. The people at the Kennel Club who were made to look foolish were deceived by the programme maker. And you know, if you know yourself, you could take this interview and you could edit it, and I could end up sounding like I was brilliant or I was a fool. I could end up sounding like a liar or you know, the point is,
absolutely, yes.
So number one, it was edited in a manner to make fools of the people who contributed, and that wasn't fair, because I know the people who were involved, and they were bright, intelligent people. They just edited that in a manner that was destructive. The show, the aftermath, was, I felt that we should have, again, it's little bit like, you know, what's happened in Austria. I think we should have perhaps taken on a professional PR, a top PR consultancy to handle that, because I think that, you see, the problem is we're all idealists. We're all so passionate about things and because things weren't as bad as that program portrayed, we believe that we can talk honestly and everybody's going to believe us, where in actual fact, it needs to be more than that. It needs to be a science to get your point over in a manner that people are going to sit up and take notice of. So I think that it wasn't nobody let us down. It was just, I think, a little bit of a naivety about what the enormity of what was being dealt with. But what I am going to say, and it is slightly controversial, and that is that we were possibly due a little wake-up call, because we had ignored some things that were really important, because, you know, that things were becoming, you know, like, for instance, you know, like a pinch nostril. You know, there's a controversy over brachycephalic breeds. I understand they're under threat, and again, it's a time that we should, you know, the FCI, the Kennel Club, we should be dealing with that with a PR company. But what I'm trying to say is some of the healthiest breeds that I've ever seen, some of the healthiest dogs I've seen within breeds have been brachycephalic dogs with big open nostrils, great breathing, could sit outside on a hot day without being a problem. The point is that within, it wasn't like a breed like Pekingese were unhealthy, but there were one or two animals within that breed that were unhealthy, because we were not highlighting it. We were not paying enough attention to it. And so consequently now, I do think that what's happened as a result of that program, it was biased, it was badly, I mean, it was a deceit the way that they did that program. However, as we've gone, Christ knows how many years since it's been, you know, when we judge, we do have a responsibility to make sure that we are judging animals that have got good temperaments, that can live life with and be comfortable and enjoy their lives. So anything that goes beyond that, we should penalise heavily. And I do believe that as a result of that program, we've focused our mind a little bit on the importance of that. And I think it's been, so I think that long term, it's had a beneficial effect. At the time, obviously it caused bloody mayhem, and I think it was wicked the way it was portrayed.
Yeah. Okay, I have only 2 more questions left for you. I don't know how you are going to deal with the questions of the people, or you will have to promise here to everybody that we are going to do a part 2 on one of the days, and then we let them just ask the questions. Or I don't know what you are going to do, because we have managed to keep almost 400 people watching live for 3 hours, and I have never seen this on my screen, but there are 601 comments. So
yeah, but you're not telling me how many bad ones there are.
Well, I'm not managing to check them all.
So, Auntie?
I don't know. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
I'm back. What I have to do? Okay.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.
Okay, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it was not the toilet break, but my friend was calling me, and then if somebody calls me on a normal line, because I do it over my mobile phone, I lose the connection. But anyhow, we still have few more things to talk with Michael, and then we will see what we will do with these questions. Anyhow, Michael, before my last 2 questions, I have asked you to send me 5 photos that represent important parts of your life. Let's try to comment quickly on them. Beltran will put them on the screen, and so people will be able to see these photos that you have sent us, and you can say shortly about them. The first one is you carrying and obviously a puppy American Cocker. What it is about this photo?
Well, it's important on 2 levels. Number one, that that's Sultan of Swing, my first champion when he was a puppy, and I think he looked beautiful on the picture. And it's also to prove that once I was pretty. It might be many decades ago, but once I was pretty.
Okay, I didn't see that coming, but okay. Okay, I don't know, Beltran, did you manage to put the picture of the screen, because I had to go out of my screen on Facebook? Yeah, okay, so everybody could see it. Okay, the picture number 2 is you showing the Afghan hound.
Well, I don't need to say any more than you know, she's there because you know, I adored her. She was my absolute, you know, my absolute heart dog. I loved her. I hate that word heart dog, but she really was.
Yeah. Third picture is you showing a black American Cocker.
Again, that's Arabella, and I think you can see so much on that picture. You know, this short back, leggy, beautiful silky coat, gorgeous face, the correct proportions. Just to, you know, I just think it's she is really probably my favorite American Cocker, and I think that picture just portrays her in a beautiful light. She was a hell of a dog, and of course she produced Douglas, which was you know, one of our number one breeds dogs. So she was a good producer as well.
Okay. Fourth picture, I suppose it's a picture from the wedding. You and Tom
right.
and two ladies.
Well, it's the best moment of my life. Not the best doggy moment, the best moment, full stop, of my life, and that was getting married to Tom. I don't know why he wanted me, but thank God he did. And on the picture is my sister. She's not my sister, but we're closer than a brother and sister could be, Trish. And then there's Tom's mum, Claire, who has welcomed me into the family, despite the fact I think she was worried that some old lech was getting involved with her son. But anyway, she's a fantastic mother-in-law.
Wonderful. And then the last photo is you jumping and Mika pointing at you, winning Best of Breed at the World Show in Amsterdam.
Yeah, it's kind of, actually it's funny because you asked me about special moments, and actually, you know, it would be easy to say a special moment is a best in show, you know, the Crufts best in show, something like that. But as a handler, and you know, this is quite recent. This was the World Show in Amsterdam, which was only 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And there was a huge ringside and an incredible competition. Chris from the States was over with a bitch that Missy, who's a dear friend of ours, owned. We had the young Grace co-owned with our dear friend Maud. Papa Don't Preach, and she was young then. And of course there was Electra, who's a small bitch, but again, just a beautiful type, the exquisite head, the shape, everything. The two white bitches have got this drama and solid 10 characters, and my beautiful Electra was she's like a little bit of a sensitive daddy's girl, but she, you know, she put on, amongst the screaming and the cheering and God knows what, and it was literally a nail-biting finish on these three bitches on who was going to win. And yeah, I think if the picture's still on the screen, I think it shows joy beyond belief. You know, it was fantastic. You know, and I'm not being funny. You know, when you've had so many moments, so many great moments over the years, and you are beginning to feel your age a little bit. You know, to go in against Jason and Chris
and beat him.
And, you know, it was just very special. And of course, don't forget, it was under Mickey. You know, he's had such incredible dogs, and so to win under, you know, a win is a great thing no matter who. But you know, there are some wins under some judges that are very special. So for him to acknowledge this bitch and her beauty was really important to me.
Yeah. Okay. Only two questions are left, my questions, and then we will see what we will do. I think we will have to promise to people that we are going to do a part 2 and make it one day, just 1 hour for all of them to ask whatever they wanted to ask, because otherwise, I don't know what to say. Okay. My penultimate question for you is, what would be your advice for someone young who wants to start with dogs and become successful as a breeder or exhibitor or a judge?
It's a relatively simple answer, but maybe not always so easy to achieve. The more people that you can be helped by, the better chances you've got. with a lot of the old breeders retiring and not so many, there's been a shift really. Whether you want to be an exhibitor, having a mentor like Javier or Jason or, there's a multitude of great American handlers. There's fantastic handlers, throughout Europe. My adversary Lotta, with their poodles, great handler. There are so many. So it's vital that if you can, even if you've got to be a slave to those people for a little while, because they're busy and you can't stop them and say, I need your help. But if you can help them, then they'll help you back. And in the same way that when I was a kid, I was so eager to do anything to get to speak to people on any breed, really. I mean, I was so fascinated by dogs. But I was just, the amount of people who were instrumental when I was young. Jean Taylor of the famous Clevehill Springers. I mean, she was extraordinary. I'll never forget going to Jean's farm in Yorkshire. And we went for a walk with the Springers. She was famous for blacks, actually, black and white. Like 40 Springers we took for a walk. 40 Springers. Yeah. Just extraordinary. I mean, extraordinary. And, there wasn't one. There were dozens of people who helped me and talked about construction and type and movement. And, oh, my God, it just went on and on. And, again, it's important that you don't make yourself a nuisance. But if you're interested and you pick your moment, then I think there's a lot of people who are prepared to help. And then as a breeder, it's exactly the same. As an exhibitor, a breeder or a judge, and then judging again, the people that you look up to should be those people who you truly believe are knowledgeable, but also have the integrity to always do the right thing, even if they don't want to. There are times when you might be faced with somebody that you loathe, and if they've got the best dog, then you have to put them up. I think that if somebody beat you in the ring last week, a judge put you down last week and they're judging next week, you can't allow that to cloud your judgment. And I think that those type of people who've got that view of judging and having the two things combined, the knowledge and that huge level of integrity, they are the people that should be your icons. And you should, it's more difficult to have a mentor to judge. I mean, you can be helped for sure. Yeah. But certainly, I think in the case of judging, I think you should set your sights on being as great as some of the great judges.
Yeah. Okay. Last question for tonight from my side is, how do you see the future of the sport? Are you optimistic or not?
Well, I think there's a danger that the entries were tumbling prior to this situation with COVID, and I think it will have had an element of negativity to that's going to come with it, because some people will have just decided to quit. If you've got a coated breed, I mean, we have been slaves to the coat since the end of since the beginning of this lockdown. But one or two of our good animals. We had a beautiful apricot bitch, toy poodle bitch that Tom was really high on, and she was best puppy at second show at Crufts. Gorgeous little thing. I mean, we've cut a coat off because those apricot puppy coats are quite difficult, and we were already keeping two others in full coat. So I think this has not been going to be helpful. What I do think we need to do is we need, as we can all get a little bit, this feeling of being a bit self-important's got to go. We've got to try and encourage people, help people. I think that breeders not selling good quality stock is a mistake, because if you've got a really good line and you don't let anybody else have that stuff, then you're in danger of being like the last man standing. So you know, and I think as a breeder, you know, if you let stuff go, then later down the line, when people have perhaps taken that and gone in a slightly different direction, that you can maybe pick up something that incorporates some of your old breeding and brings in some new lines. So I think that we've all got to be more welcoming to people in the sport. I think that we've got to try and offer more help. I think that we should be. I think what you're doing with this, Antti, is important because, you know, during this lockdown, I think it's good. Listen, I'm extremely flattered that people have bothered to actually see me tonight. I never take myself so seriously that I think I'm a big deal. I'm just somebody who's been passionate about this sport, and I've been lucky, and I've been honest to myself. And I think all of those things are things that, you know, if I've said to our kennel club in the UK that, you know, before the COVID, that I was quite happy for me and people like Tan to do casual seminars talking about breeding as a concept and what, you know, picking puppies and what faults wouldn't get, you know, could never get better, but what faults might change. And, you know, you might not be able to be specific, but we've all got to be a bit more giving of ourselves. We've got to be more giving of ourselves, and we've got to be more giving of our dogs, you know, because when people in this country, a situation where you cannot buy a toy poodle puppy to show. We've got fewer breeders. The problem with the litter size in toy poodles is that they're often very small. And then when people do have a spare puppy that is nice quality, a lot of them won't sell to show people or to somebody who might want to breed. Well, there's something hypocritical if you're a breeder not wanting anybody to breed. I mean, I don't sell. If somebody phones me up and says I'm looking for a bitch to breed from, that's the end of the conversation. Yeah. But if you're talking to somebody who's got an interest and might be the next generation of toy poodle breeder, why wouldn't you help them? Why would you not help them with a puppy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I agree with you. Okay, Mike, listen, the things are like this. We have been talking, you and me, for 3 hours and 21 minutes.
The Andrew was right.
The Andrew was absolutely right.
Absolutely right.
Which first of all, it's amazing, and I really thank you so much for staying with us for so long. Second thing, we have absolutely broken all the records with the number of people watching online, and then, well, no doubt, with 715 comments, we have never had anything similar to this. So what I will ask you definitely is, because I think we cannot manage now to ask them to ask questions, because we would go on for another 2 hours. First of all, I hope that you can find time in the next few days to rewatch the interview, which will be available both at Best in Show Magazine's Facebook page and in our Facebook group Talking Dogs with Ante, and see all these 700 and something comments of your friends and people that maybe you don't know, saying thank you to you and asking some kind of questions. And then obviously once when you calm down a little bit, I will talk to you and we see if we are going to do not on Wednesday, but maybe during the weekend, one of the weekends or something, a part 2 where we will give the people the possibility to answer just their questions, because obviously you are humble and you don't think you said you don't have a high self-esteem, but I would like that one day somebody invites me to give an interview and that I have 450 people listening to me for 3 hours and a half and writing 724 comments. So you can be only proud of yourself, and definitely you deserve all of this for all that you have done for a dog world. I want to say that my guest next weekend, next Wednesday, is going to be another top class breeder, Ludovica Salamon from Italy, who has been very famous for her Irish Wolfhounds and Gordon Setters. She had also huge success at Crafts many times. and she's also a veterinarian specialized in canine reproduction. So I think she will also be very interesting. For the end, I leave the last words of this night to you, Mike, and then obviously you are talking to your friends and to people who are watching. You can maybe tell them what is going to happen with all these questions and comments that left unanswered. So I leave you to finish the evening.
Well, can I first say that I do listen, Ante. I thank you for asking me to do this tonight. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You've given me one or two questions that were a little bit hard because nothing scripted. I know what was coming. And I'm really and truly, I am humbled by the amount of people who've stayed on for so long. And I will take a look at this when I'll look at it back. But the one thing that I can assure you and assure the people who've watched is that I'm really difficult to actually ever answer a text message or an email. So if there's 700 questions.
Well, there are not 700 questions. There are people who are writing things.
But the point is that it would take another
year,
another great time like this for me to answer them, because I certainly won't be typing little answers to people. Okay. But I have enjoyed it, and I think we've discussed some interesting things. And I do think your next guest, she's somebody I've admired enormously. She shows really beautiful dogs. So I think I hope she has as much fun next week as I've had tonight.
Yeah. Okay. So you heard now. There is no way that Mike is going to type the answers to all of your questions that you left. But I think we all had an amazing evening, and we all learned so much, and we all enjoyed it because I don't. First of all, I don't know when it was the last time in my life that I spoke to somebody for 3 hours and a half, probably some love affair 20 years ago or something like that. So I hope that I promise you that I will talk to Mike at some point tomorrow, when I will see if it is possible to arrange another meeting during one of the next weekends, that we give the opportunity to you only to ask your questions without any of my questions. And I hope Mike will be available to answer it, because I think that, of course, Mike has thanked to me for inviting him, but I must thank to Mike for accepting my invitation and for breaking all the records of something that is very important for me. Because I think that in this time of this lockdown and time that we are all at home, to be able once a week to connect in this way to all our friends all around the world is something amazing. And I when you read the comments, and you don't need to answer anything, but when you read the comments, you will see how many people from all around the world have appreciated this evening. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Mike, once again for accepting my invitation. Obviously, we will talk soon again, you and me, and good night, everyone. And thank you, really, thank you so much for staying with us for 3 hours and a half. Good night, and see you soon.
Good night.
silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are